Test, test, microphone test, 1, 2, 3. I'm back.
Yeah. It was incredibly disruptive.
Good morning, flock. Welcome to Prague. For some of you, maybe it's the second time coming to a flock in Prague. In that case, welcome back. But for many of you, probably like myself, it's the first time that we're here in Prague after some time. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and being a part. How are y'all feeling this morning? You ready for 3 days of flock? So before we get started, we've got a little bit of announcements and some opening remarks, things you should be keeping in mind for the days ahead. Quick, just as a regular reminder, Fedora does have a code of conduct. We'll have a slide rotating throughout the week that you can find that and access it. You can also find it online, and we also have an email address that should be written on the back of your badge. If anything comes up, you can find more information on the badge. Also, a big thank you to all of our sponsors who have helped make this event possible this year. That's Red Hat, CentOS, Lenovo, Alma Linux, Microsoft, Rocky Linux, ARM, and OpenSUSE, as well as some of our bronze sponsors, which would be Nova Custom and Velocity Limitless. So a big round of applause for all of our sponsors this year. And additionally, now let me see if I can use this fancy clicker. All right. So some important logistic information. At lunchtime, this entire room is going to change. So at lunch, take everything with you if you want to ever see it again. So make sure that right when we have the closing session for lunch, we need to promptly clear out the room so we can get set up for the afternoon breakout. So do not leave anything in this room after lunch. There's also some information about volunteering. We're looking for a few more volunteers to help out with registration desk, or we have the role of a session chair. That's just helping, run the microphone around the room. There's some little time cards for speakers, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. If this sounds like something you'd like to help out with, or you're already going to be in a room anyways and you'd like to help, you can find some more information on this QR code as well. Lastly, comes logistic pieces about what's going to be happening in the evening times outside of the conference. Tonight, we're going to have a candy swap at the Gikarna venue. If you have seen Emma Kidney's map at the registration desk, you'll be able to find exactly where that is. But we'll also be sharing more information about that in our Matrix chat room. Tomorrow night, we have a social night, and we are bringing back, if you've been into a few flocks, particularly the ones in Europe, you might remember, we usually have a boat, and there's a river, and we take a little cruise on the river and have a dinner, and we're bringing that back this year. But because it's a boat, that means you need to be there at 7 p.m. sharp, because the boat is going to leave whether you are there or not. So there is no late arrivals for this one. So make sure if you want to join us for the dinner, you are there promptly at the meetup location for the dinner. Good swimmers, yes, because once you're on the boat, there's no leaving the boat. You have 2 hours. You're on the boat. So make sure you are okay with 2 hours on a boat. And I believe actually at the end we'll have an hour docked where if you want to hang out for a little bit longer, you can. Lastly, for Saturday night, that's an open evening. So if you want to meet up, now that you've made some Fedora friends throughout the week, you've gotten to know Prague a little bit, that's going to be a great time for the folks who aren't jumping out. If you want to go and plan a dinner or have a nice quiet evening as the conference wraps up, that's the perfect time to do so. And for Sunday, I think some of you have probably already seen, we had to forego the social day trip this year. However, we do have some recommendations from things you can do and see around Prague. If you haven't seen the Prague recommendations wiki page on the Fedora wiki, that has a bunch of information about how you can spend your time and maybe make a little group to go around and see some of the city or some of the nearby places. So with that, last little piece of information. If you were at the release party last week, you might have heard the little rumor that we are about to launch the annual contributor survey. And thanks to many folks who have put in some last-minute work to help us make it accomplished. Greg, you can raise your hand in the back. Thank you, Greg. We have the survey ready. So we are going to be sharing this more widely. I believe it's running for 30 days, about a month. So we're officially launching it here. This is our best way to share feedback with the community. And this is for users, contributors. This is very wide open. So this is one of the best ways that we get to really hear from our user and contributor community. So I highly encourage you, if you have a few minutes to fill it out while you're here, that's great. Otherwise, you'll have a few extra weeks after Flock. Just don't forget to fill out the survey. And with that, I think that's really most of the the important details. Let me just take one last look before oh, and something else I thought was really special this year as we were reflecting back. This is actually the 10th flock that we have done. So there's there's lots of other events, as we've done 35 FUDCons in the past, and if you count the Nest events, we've had 13 flagship events, but I just wanted to share that this was a special moment. This is our 10th flock coming together in person as a community, running this tradition together, and honestly, it's one of my favorite things that I get to experience in my role, seeing all of you all come together for a few days, wherever we are in the world, hanging out with our contributor community, working through some important things that are in our community. So I'm really thankful that all of you get to be here with us and be a part of this 10th edition chapter of Flock to Fedora. So with that, I believe we are now at the FPL Exchange. You are all about to witness a historic event in this very room, 10 years in the making. So with that, I think I will go ahead, if there's nothing else that folks would like to say for opening remarks, or if there's any questions, conference logistic questions that people want to shout out. Yes? Wi-Fi password. So yes, that is actually posted in a couple of places around, I think on the doors as well. But if I remember right, it's the and.conf network is the better one. I've had issues with the Vienna House network. So if you connect to the and.conf network, that password is something.something, Vienna.something. It is posted around. If someone wants to put that into the Matrix chat as well, that would probably be pretty handy. But you can find it posted around the venue as well if you do need the Wi-Fi password. So good question there. Last call for big room questions before we have this historic event on this stage. All right, folks, then I'm going to pass the microphone over to Mr. Matthew Miller.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for... Yeah. Slides. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Flock to Fedora in Prague. Also, Flock to Fedora in Prague there. Yeah. This was a panel discussion. Everyone is off screen here, and we didn't have very many photographs of it, so this is a clip from a video. But there it is. I'm wearing the same shirt. It's gotten a little bit, I don't know, it's tighter somehow. I'm not sure how that happened. A little bit, yeah, a little faded, but yeah. So this was not my first time speaking at a Fedora conference, but it was my first time as the FPL, and we did not plan this, but it turned out nicely. That was 1 decade, 1 year, and 1 day ago that I became, not when I was talking about, when I came the FPL. So that's 11 years. It's been a pretty exciting time. I think in all that time, one thing has been constant. Fedora is awesome. It's been awesome as a project for so many years, and all of you here are really to thank for that, and so many other people. It's very tempting to spend the next little bit of time on nostalgia, and I'm going to a little bit, or like an Academy Award, like thanking 10,000 people one after another. I won't do that. Could also do like an hour of nerdy charts and graphs. Very tempting, but I'm gonna compress things a little bit. I was gonna talk for a few more minutes here, then we'll hand things over to Jeff. In that first talk, I talked a lot about the blessing of the FPL. This is a badge we have, which it looks a little more pointy than it's not that painful. This is a badge that the FPL can give out to people in a little, like, here's a gift from the FPL. But as I was reflecting on that back then, and I still believe it, being the FPL is the blessing, and this badge is very awkward because it's kind of a job where it's really a privilege to be in a position where you can spend your whole time trying to help everybody make Fedora be as amazing as it is. I still have the power to give this out, and there are probably plenty of people I haven't given it to. If you know somebody who should get this who doesn't have it, come whisper it to me during the conference, and I'll make sure that that happens as a last giveaway of things. Yeah. Previous yeah. Well, there is a yeah. I don't know. so you can get more than one. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we may figure that out. We'll have to give some sort of Jeff PL badge of some sort. But yeah, so any list of thanks is gonna be incomplete. I am gonna name a few people today. I'm sure that I'm gonna leave so many people out, but in any sort of list, people without whom I wouldn't be here. Fedora wouldn't be like it is. These are people. There are people here who've been really important to me, who I'm not going to name, so don't feel left out. But first, I want to Seth Vidal, who was involved in Fedora very early and worked at another university, really helped me understand the value of community and how making things together, it was worth the extra effort to share. Seth was taken from us way too young before I became the FPL, but I remember when I was making the decision, is this something I want to do? And I spent a lot of time talking to him about that, and I miss him a lot. Second, Robin Bergeron, who is my predecessor in this role. She was amazing. She is amazing. She spent a lot of time setting up things so that I wouldn't get burned to a crisp in the role, and I think we can see from the 11 years that she did a good job of setting it up, so it could be a long-time success. And then there have been a lot of people in those support roles that she helped set up, program manager and the FCAIC or FCA role. Thanks to everybody in that, but particularly to Ben Cotton and Marie Norden, who were during COVID kind of my little, my work best friend club, good time Fedora thing, and I really appreciate everything they did. And again, so many of the rest of you, I appreciate it personally, and then also just everything that you've done for Fedora to make Fedora awesome. It's been so good. Tiny bit of nostalgia. This is the Fedora Linux 21 wallpaper. It's kind of gloomy. I mean, it's all right. I think we were kind of coming out of what was like brooding, dark, angsty teenager times and this kind of reflects that a little bit. I did a whole nother talk, which was going through all the nostalgia of the first 35 releases. I'll probably do that talk again because it was fun to give. It's also online. I recommend it if you want more nostalgia. Here we are now in, I don't know, I think I love this wallpaper. I think it is friendly and inviting and kind of has a little bit of a whimsy to it. Plus, we've got our Hitchhiker's Guide references embedded there. If you can't find them, we'll talk about them later. But I really like how welcoming and friendly and just peaceful this is, and I think this kind of reflects the spirit of Fedora in a really good way. I found it funny that people on Reddit were angry about this wallpaper. I don't know, friendliness, maybe not a Reddit virtue, yeah, don't like fun. I do, and I'm really proud of our designer Madeline worked on this. It's awesome. Yeah, but here we are now. Also in nostalgia, when I started as the Fedora project leader, these are my children, and now they've become whole grown-ups in the time that I have been in this job, which is amazing. And actually I want to thank Red Hat because I feel like this has been a very intense job, but I haven't felt like I've missed out on my kids growing up. I've had the time to be with them. In fact, partly the reason I'm very jet lagged right now is Anya's graduation was on Monday, so I went to that and then got on a plane the next day, and then here I am. I don't know how it's Thursday somehow now. I don't know what, but yeah. I am going to put one chart in here. This is growth in user release check-ins. Nice to see continuing going up. One of the things I'm looking forward to doing is having a little more time to spend time on like just nerding out on very specific deep things, because in this job there's not really much time to go deep because there's always some other thing that needs attention. So I'm looking forward to doing next time at Flock a whole hour on nerdy Fedora statistics and graphs. It's going to be awesome. I'm also stepping into a new role at Red Hat. I'm going to be a manager in the community Linux engineering team, where a lot of the people who work on Fedora infrastructure and quality and design there. Aoife's still going to be reporting to me because Aoife is awesome, and that's be fun. And then a lot of the quality team as well. So I see some of you here. I know I haven't talked to you about it yet, but we'll talk while I'm here. And also, I'm going to be hiring for another role in Fedora quality. So if you're interested in that, come talk to me. Or if you know someone who would be good, that's going to be fun as well. But now, with that, I think it is time to hand things on. And this is the FPL badge, which has a sword. I think it's in some ways, being the FPL is more kind of a blunt instrument. It's more of a bonking thing than a sword. So we have this awesome device here. And Jeff, come on up. We don't do this very often, so we don't really have a formal ceremony. But I don't know. You can see Jeff might not be one for formal ceremonies so much. This is formal wear. All right. We do have the former FPLs from Michael, Gafton, Greg, everybody here, and I'm not handing it to you yet. I'm looking at it. I think I do have to knight. Oh. Yeah. There you go. And now, here you go. FPL Jeff. So, in seriousness, you don't really get many powers as the FPL. You can't bonk people with things, but what you do get, it is good, yeah. Jeff, I think you're going to be awesome in this job. I've seen you getting up to speed here. It's going to be really exciting, and it's nice to hand this off in a way that I feel really good about the future of Fedora leadership. The one other thing you really do get is a microphone. So,
not yet.
Not yet?
No, I want to take this off before I.
Oh, okay. Well.
I want to. This is fun.
Okay, we're gonna watch. Okay. Now I have to ad-lib.
A little dancing music, please.
Not for me. Sorry. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. So yeah, the one thing you really do get is a microphone. You get to be able to be the voice of the community. I know you're very good at listening. Let's hear you talk.
Hey everybody. How does this work? There we go. So sitting here this morning as people were filing in, and I mentioned to Matthew sort of jokingly, what have I gotten myself into? But hopefully after seeing me show up in a hot dog costume, you're all asking the same thing about me. So, but I probably wouldn't wear the hot dog costume all day because it's fun, but I wanted you to take this seriously. I don't want to sort of short sell the fact that I am very grateful to be here, and this is a serious thing for me. Fedora was where I cut my teeth on how open source is supposed to be done. I'll talk about that in a second. But I don't want, I love whimsy, but I don't want to give you the impression that that's all I'm about. So I wanted to make sure I took the hot dog suit off, and more importantly, you can see my curling pride shirt, which is also very important to me. So here we go. Hi, I'm Jeff. You may remember me from such roles as. I got started really as open source community way back. Do you remember the Symbian desktop? I was there in the IRC channel helping people. I was a user, and that got me stuck into contributing. Why do I say contributing? It's weird. But then from there, I moved over to the Fedora US repository, and I was helping out there, doing some minor packaging work. It's so long ago, it's hard to remember what I was doing exactly. But I was there when the decision was made to sunset Red Hat Linux and sort of combined with the external Fedora US repo when they agreed, whatever was done, when Warren agreed to basically give up control and make it the genesis of what is now this project. And then from then I was mailing lists and IRC. You may remember me talking about licensing a lot at some point, if you remember me at all. But I ended up eventually being on the Fedora board at one point before I sort of rolled off as a contributor. This should be a pretty familiar origin story for anyone who's watched popular primetime cartoons. You know, I was, not a pizza delivery boy. I was actually a graduate student in the 20th century. And I wasn't accidentally frozen. I chose to go to Alaska. I thawed out 2 decades later and became the unexpected important figure of Fedora's fate. So, but like I said, it should be familiar to a lot of people in this room. So Alaska, I went to Alaska for 18 years. They do pay you to live there, just like the Simpsons movie says. I will miss the check from the state. But I'm not there anymore. So why did I go? So as a graduate student, I was actually studying fusion energy back in New Jersey as a graduate student. I'm actually in that picture down the lower left. I'm the one on the floor. I will always seem to be on the one on the floor in pictures for some reason. I don't know why. But something about framing, photography framing, I think. A sort of rule of three, the thirds. It was plasma physics. I ended up going to Alaska to study the aurora using radar systems. I've actually done experiments using HARP. If anyone knows HARP, I actually got to operate the space physics or the atmospheric heater. It's fantastic. It ran well. But my main job was I was actually helping to build superdarn radars and extend the network as a postdoc, which is a really cool gig. And I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And when I say Alaska, I actually mean Antarctica. For part of that job, I had to build a couple of radars down on the ice, one in McMurdo, and then I actually got to go to the South Pole for a couple of years. It was the first 3 days are always fun. That's a real recycling container down there. They had a series of them, and one of them was the Dreams container. And on the list is like your graduate thesis. So there may be a copy of my dissertation in that bin. I didn't want to put all the pictures, but yeah, the first 3 days always fun. The 5th week never is. On my first jump down to the ice, we were building the radar, and it was on the books, slated to be like a 2.5-week trip. I ended up spending 5 weeks there. That's a picture of me at 30 feet up in a bucket, like a lineman bucket truck. We were doing the rigging for the radar on the 5th week. It was like a 20-hour day that day for me because we were pushing to get it done because they were now telling us we had to get off the ice. It was almost the end of the summer season. So they were trying to get all the researchers, the beakers, off the ice. And that was not a fun day. So over like a course of those first 6 years in Alaska, first 7 or 8 years in Alaska, I helped build, maintain, or modernize 10 Superdarn radars. And these are interesting instruments because we were actually using World War II over-the-horizon sort of shortwave radio radar technology to do science. What was noise during World War II was actually our science. We were scattering off the aurora. And it became an international collaboration because you need 2 of these radars to get the velocity vector. So we would have some in Alaska, we'd have some in Canada. I think we had a couple of collaborators in Russia, a couple in Europe, but then we also had the southern hemisphere. So we had South Africans, some Australians, and we added the Antarctic ones. We were extending the range. The radar network extended both towards the poles and towards the equator. Some of the radars I built during that tenure were Kansas, ADAC, Oregon, adding more coverage so we could see more of the plasma physics that was driving all of the ionospheric activity. So it was an interesting gig, and it was unfortunately it was a lot of QNX because a decision was made before I joined the project to basically base the radar on QNX instead of Linux. But I think some of the student projects after me fixed that. But the point is, I ended up spending about 8 weeks a year literally off the grid. Like, they say there's internet at Antarctica. There is no internet at Antarctica. They get like an hour of email of a day. So I had to step back from Fedora. Like, up until the first couple of years in Alaska, I was still contributing. I was still making the virtual meetings. I think I even came all the way back to do a Southeast Linux Fest, and it was actually Robin that year was the FPL. So I missed Matthew entirely. I think I basically rolled off right before he became FPL. So, but I still found a way to do open source as part of my job. Like I said, I, really learned how to do this in the Fedora community. And so when I was working on SuperDarn, I made it a point to find a way to build a community inside of that project because there was a lot of students who were doing work and basically working with IDL for their data analysis. And it made no sense to me because only about 10% of those students ended up going into research careers. They would have to get jobs elsewhere. So I actually helped make sure that as part of this modernization, we actually had a Python-based SDK for the data analysis and got some of the students involved because I know the students have time and no common sense, so they're willing to help out because I was also one of them. We actually got, it's something I left behind to make sure that students could continue to collaborate and push things forward in a way that the primary investigators never will. The students always push things forward is what I found, and not the people who are basically writing the grants. So so I continue to make open source part of my job because I wanted to make sure things were openly developed that way. As the practitioners had a say in what was going on, and more importantly, they were building a skill set for their own careers. So open source is great, but have any of you tried curling? So the biggest thing in 18 years in Alaska, right? Literally, we were getting ready to move there, and my wife and I are like, what are we going to do in Alaska? And we happened to literally, 2 weeks in, we fell into a group of terrible influencers, some high school teachers who curled. So I ended up doing a lot of curling in 18 years. And by a lot, I mean, I did a lot of curling in 18 years. You will see costumes because costumes are a thing in the curling community for bonspiels. Like I said, I would wear that hot dog all day if I could. So this became sort of an identity for me, and you will continue to hear about curling because it is a deep part of my my person now. It was sort of, and I could go on and on about the parallels I've seen between open development and curling as a thing, but I will not do that here. What I will tell you is that we could be curling right now. There is a curling club in this city, and they are doing corporate events this week. I may have to see if there's an opportunity to do a Learn to Curl Saturday if anyone's interested. But not just right now, we could also be curling next week. Brno has a curling club, and more importantly, they have a bonspiel January 16th and 18th, and I'm looking for a few brave souls and a good business reason to be back in the country roughly around 16th to 18th. So, and if you want to, I'm not saying bribe, it's not the right word, but if you want to influence my thinking as the FPL about any subject, if you happen to invite me to a bonspiel in your area, you may get some more FaceTime with me. I'm just saying. Like I said, it's something, I have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying very hard to build up a set of curling analogies to replace all the basketball and football analogies in American jingoism. So, back on track. What time? How much time do I have? Oh my gosh, 20 minutes. We're going to end up way early. I may have to do curling. I can sit on this slide for a second. So after I was an academic, I did that for about 8 years. I ended up leaving academia for a gloriously stupid reason. I made the mistake of talking to my cousin, and I helped him build a prototype for a wearable technology, and then he suckered me into working for him for 2 years. So the first thing I did after leaving academia, it was a company called Vert. It's still a thing. It's actually a big thing in Europe, I think. Got picked up by volleyball, especially women's volleyball, for injury prevention. That was a very interesting 2 years. Unfortunately, it was all proprietary, but I basically was a full stack developer. I did firmware for a wearable device all the way up through the iOS client that interacted with it with Bluetooth, all the way in the backend systems that basically were handling the team data because it was a tiny company. I don't remember a lot. I do remember some long nights at in Vegas, building demos for a CS convention. I remember being in a ESPN broadcast production truck a couple of years because we did the National Volleyball Championship collegiate, and we actually had women wearing the devices during the event, and they were trying to use it as data to pop up for the bug for like how high they were jumping. It was a cool run for 2 years, but you know, after I told my cousin I'd give it 2 years, and I just didn't enjoy doing everything proprietary. There's no way to build community there. But it was a good technology. So after Vert, I worked for Sensu as a developer advocate, and this was my chance to really get back to building and sort of sustaining a read-write community. Sensu was an interesting monitoring company. There was an open core play, but they had an open source project base, and they had just done like a generational change from Ruby to Go as their platform when I joined, and I had a good 3-year run before we got acquired, and really got a chance to actually, my first time I was paid to do open source like community advocacy. The stuff I was doing as a contributor in Fedora partly, now I was getting paid as my day job, and it was fantastic. I loved that company, and then we got acquired, and I did not love that company. So I moved to Isovalent primarily because when I was at Sensu doing monitoring, eVPF there's a lot of stuff around eVPF and observability because that was the word that the CNCF people use instead of monitoring, and I just couldn't make it work in the model that Sensu as a piece of technology was designed to be. So I was really interested in it, and I got a chance to basically join a company that was basically all eVPF all the time. And if you're not familiar with eVPF, it is. I legitimately think it's a core technology moving forward, especially for networking and observability. But it's basically makes your kernel programmable from user space, so it's wild. Like it almost makes it a microkernel. And I actually think it's a future for a lot of things, especially in the CNCF space, which is interesting for licensing reasons. But so I got to do that for a good year and a half before Isovalent got acquired. So, and I did not leave Isovalent because of the acquisition. I actually think Cisco is doing a good job with what they're doing there. I don't think they're. I think they're trying really hard to build a community or keep a community around that work. They want to figure out how to play in the space better. What I did leave because my wife started a new gig back in Virginia this year, and I was already planning on moving back east from Alaska when Matthew said he was stepping down, and it just happened to be perfect timing because when the other Fedora-related opportunities came up previously, there's no way I could have done what Aoife's doing from Alaska. There's no way. It's just too far away. But coming back east, it was the perfect time to basically throw my hat in and take a shot at it. And here I am. So, I basically took 2 months off to pack the house. I rolled into Virginia at the end of April and then started the job on May 1st. And it's been a whole month of just onboarding in terms of Red Hat internal stuff. I have been reading up on the community side, and I'm trying to one-on-one with as many people as I can. If I haven't gotten to you yet, please reach out if you want to have a discussion with me. The summit and this conference sort of makes it impossible to do for a couple of weeks, but hopefully right after this we'll have time. And I know some people have reached out, but if I haven't gotten back to you, find me here or ping me in Matrix, and I'll set up some one-on-one time with you. And I'm actually hoping to do that anyway from a project's perspective because of my last slide. No, not my last slide. Like, now what? So what I'm planning to do initially, and this is the new slide. For people who were in the release party, you've seen all this before. But this is the new slide. This is the one new thing. I haven't actually been putting any goals out because I've been sort of in an information gathering mode. But I think now's the time to sort of tell you what I'm thinking about, right? So I know the strategy 2028 is a big sort of large set of initiatives, and I'm personally coming up to speed on where things are with that, and I'm hoping sessions this week will help. But also, relatedly, but sort of my pet project, how I'm approaching coming in as a new FPL after 10 years of not having a new FPL, which is amazing. Since I saw so many of them in the early years basically come in and get burned out and go. I'm actually very interested in doing a project health assessment, primarily because, this is a generational project now. Like, and I say this with as much love as I can muster. If you remember me as a peer contributor, you're a potential risk now to the project, in that you probably have a set of institutional knowledge, or you're doing something important that we haven't figured out a way to mentor a group around you. And so if you do remember, and I'm not going to do a show of hands, if you do remember me, I would love to talk to you about how we make it so that you're mentoring new people into the things that you're doing. Because if you've been doing this, especially if you've been doing the same thing for 20 years now, you probably have a piece of institutional knowledge, or you're that, what's that graphic with the small one guy in Nebraska who keeps everything running for all of open source? You're probably that for Fedora, and that's not a good place for the project to be. So I want to look for those opportunities. Like it's great. Like I said, it's great that you are doing the work, but in some respects, the project has probably let you down, and that you're the only person doing that work, and we should probably try to solve that as moving forward with the larger strategy stuff. And I skipped a bullet point, but I want to get a sense of what's really working, what is sort of under stress and creaking, and what parts of the project have collapsed a bit, so we can have an idea. And I think that'll inform how I approach some of the strategy 2028 objectives, because it's about modernizing and figuring out what we're going to do next and attract people into. And at least for me, my contributor path was always, there has to be a problem to solve for me to be a helping hand. If everything's going well, there's less opportunity. And I'm not saying everything's going well. I'm not saying things are on fire. But if we can highlight where the opportunities are, we can sort of figure out how we're going to attract the next generation of people to work on the things that we feel like need to be worked on. So that's where I'm thinking, and what I'm sort of going to focus on initially, unless you happen to find me at a curling club and you want to talk about something else. That's always an opportunity. So I think that's it for me. We have a ton of time. I guess I can open up to questions if people want questions. Or I can talk about curling strategy for 10 minutes too. That's fine. That was my threat if there are no questions.
It's been a short time, but what things have you observed already that you want to comment on?
I mean, the meeting sort of yesterday was instructive. I'll repeat the question. I will repeat the question. So, given my short time, what have I observed that I want to comment on? And then I laughed, sort of, in a villain way. I think the meeting yesterday. What meeting? Oh, the meeting yesterday. What meeting? Oh, it was sort of a sync between council and FESCO. So sort of a sync meeting for project leadership. And I'm not seeing anything new that I didn't see at the beginning. I think the communication is always a problem, and I actually think for a lot of reasons things are probably in a better spot than they were from the first 8 years of the project. I mean, it's sort of, I'm gonna be blunt, it's sort of a miracle this project continues. And because like, my perspective, like, and I think I've said this in an interview at Summit too, when I joined, it was a completely external thing, right? It was a community add-on repo, and then when Red Hat sunsetted Red Hat Linux and said, hey, we're gonna try to do our work in an open development process, because that's what we're selling to our customers, that we are the experts at this, they were not good at communicating. And the way I look at it is, Red Hat, from my point of view, having worked at a couple of different companies now, Red Hat is uniquely bad at spin. And I actually like that, because when the project started, when this project started, it was rough, but it was pretty, no one tried to spin it. Like, they were like, yes, this is rough, and we need to figure out how to do it. And I saw that communication, and even though they were not good at it, the intention was so different from my point of view. I'm like, okay, this is how we can actually influence, because at that point, corporate open source wasn't a thing, right? Like, Red Hat was sort of there, it was coming, and like, this is, from my point of view as an external, then like, this is how we can actually influence corporate culture in a way that makes it better for everybody. And so I bought in as an external, because I wanted to help basically pull the future forward, right? Like, this isn't an easy task at all. And so I am excited by the fact that it's still an ongoing thing, because it feels like even though there's always a push and pull there, you know, it's working. I think this community still has the same fundamental nature 20 years ago than it did, that we were trying to get to, right? Or the shape of it has evolved and the specifics have evolved, but it's not the same conversation, but it's similar conversations. It's not a new problem, it's just the next problem. And I don't think, especially communication, I don't think you can ever solve. Communication is never solved. You can only get iteratively better, and as people change, communication changes. So to answer the question concisely, I'm not dropping the mic and running away based on what I'm seeing. Like, this is an iterative process that's working, and it's just more of a matter of just executing and, you know, working the problem space. So it feels good. Like I said, people said condolences for the job. I'm like, it doesn't feel like condolences yet. Maybe in a month, but so that's my answer to that question. Oh, now there's a lot of questions. I said something wrong.
No, this is entirely separate. What gap in the world do you think Fedora is best suited to fill?
Best suited to fill?
That, and not necessarily that it is now, but like, what problem space, what big opportunity do you think that the Fedora project, not necessarily Fedora Linux, but the Fedora project is positioned best to serve? Or
Right.
should be positioned best to serve?
Should be, yeah. So I think the biggest problem in the ecosystem that I would like us to be part of the discussion and chart a way forward is definitely ethical AI use, especially around, you know, what's the right licensing. Like, I'm very concerned that if we don't engage, if we don't try to do it the right way, and then we're going to lose a generation of people who are in college right now, and we haven't given them what I experienced 20 years ago, when it was about just basic, what we now take for granted as licensing, right? Those licensing arguments, you know, if something like the open source projects, or the open source Linux projects in particular, weren't trying to build an alternative, we would have a whole bunch of proprietary stuff, and we wouldn't have a counterpoint opinion for people, and I don't know if we would have won in like the way open source has won in terms of almost the full stack now, right? Except for, honestly, laptop clients, right? But But now I'm super concerned that if we don't engage and try to use the technology in the right, sustainable way, then there isn't a counterpoint argument. And, you know, the wrong AI models win. And I think we all lose. And if we just bury our heads in the sand and we don't try to stake it out and be like, this is how we can do this ethically, then we won't be part of the conversation. And I'm really afraid of the college students right now. That we're gonna not give them something that they can think about as a counter position to take for their own careers. So, does that make sense? Now, is Fedora the best position to do that right now? No. Should it be? I think it should be, but I don't know. I can't do it by myself. So, but that's my biggest concern.
One last question, I'd say, because it's 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left.
So who wants to?
I was first in the last round, but this round you were the first.
Oh, we can do both. We can do both.
Okay. Then
It's only coffee.
So maybe just a quick question. What things are we doing like we did it 2003 or 2004 when we started that we should put on the table and discuss to change again? Package ownership, release cycle. Is there anything you think that should change from back then?
I think the 2028 things that already sort of have initiatives are part of that. I'm going to bounce that question because there are things already, there's already a set of large-scale strategic changes that have already been identified. So I don't want to put my thumb on that too much because the problem is I could have 15 things I want to change, but we don't have the capacity to do all of that at the same time. So I want to make sure that I don't short-circuit the investment people have made just before coming on. Thanks, Matthew, for starting that before I came on. But so I'm trying very hard not to opine about. I want to make sure I lift up people who are already doing that kind of work because we have work in process. I don't want to derail that. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm not here to be like, we're going to do it my way. It's like, no, I'm here to help facilitate primarily. And I already see discussions that have started about modernization, and I don't want to put my thumb in it unless I see it derailing. So hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, so I have a question regarding Alaska. Besides the curling and this opportunity to work in this astrophysics field, would you still consider to live there and work for so many years, or only these two factors contributed?
Oh, if it hadn't been for the job, I never would have gone there. I mean, we were looking, like leaving grad school, we were like, well, if we don't do this now, when would we do it? And I'm not risk averse. I think it's very clear that I will seek out adventure when the opportunity arises. So, yeah, there's no way I would have gone because I hate the outdoors, as it turns out. But my wife loves winter, so I went. Yeah, it's just a very different place. There's a lifestyle there where you choose to live in a place with no running water and you have an outhouse. That's a thing. In Fairbanks, that was not my thing, but I knew a lot of people who chose to live the dry cabin lifestyle and run sled dogs. Not my thing, but it was different. I'm shocked we were there as long as we were, to be perfectly honest, because I thought after the academic gigs bounced, my academic gig bounced, I thought we would have ended up moving. But we found a reason to stay. So I would not recommend it unless you really like the outdoors. But remote jobs are easier now, but I think I got lucky in terms of being able to find work that let me still live there, but also get back in the actual software industry. Okay, well, Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so now we will have the FESCO panel discussion. So if the FESCO members can come. No.
I ran long. Can you just put this down here?
Yeah, so I can.
He seems to have an invisible touch, yeah. He reaches in and grabs right hold of your heart. He seems to have an invisible touch, yeah. It takes control and slowly tears you apart. He don't like losing. To him it's still a game. And though he will mess up your life, you want him just the same.
Sorry, yeah, I should have done that. The problem is, I actually don't know how. Yeah, I don't know many other people. Also, don't know as much as I know. So.
As always.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I literally found the curling club last night. Like I got it.
Where is he? I saw it there. But now I don't. He's out and sliding around. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I saw him pop up on the Matrix now. He's gonna catch him. I wonder what he's up to these days. Was he? No, I didn't see him. Oh, the first one. Yeah, yeah. Right. There he is. Do we have enough chairs for everyone? Can we get this chair?
I'm the only one without glasses.
So,
I am the only one without glasses.
can we please sit down?
But I fit. Now I fit.
So we are starting now. Close the door. So can we please, guys, can we sit down so we start? Thank you. Okay, so hello everyone. We are going to start the panel discussion with FESCO now. So please, can you? Okay. Thank you. So we will start with a quick intro. Everyone will introduce themselves, and then we will do Q&A.
Okay, so let me start. Hey, my name is Tomáš. I have sunglasses because I'm the only one without the real glasses on this team, it seems so. So, hi, my name is Tomáš. I am part of the Community Linux engineering team at Red Hat, and I'm part of FESCO for fourth term or third term. I'm not sure entirely. And that's about me. I'm happy to answer any questions you would have about regarding the services that we run, maintain, and with FESCO duties all around.
So my name is Zbyszek. I maintain Systemd in Fedora, and I have been in FESCO for I think 7 years now. And last year I was working on reproducible builds, and the bin has been merged and stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Kevin Finzi, or people may know me as Nurik. I've been on FESCO since it was the Fedora Extra Steering Committee back in the day, so I am old, in other words. I work on Fedora infrastructure. I'm on the Community Linux engineering team for Red Hat also. And right now I'm mostly working on our big data center move. Everyone ready for the big data center move? So that'll be exciting, and we'll be in a much nicer place once it's done. So that's me.
Thank you. I'm Fale. I have been in Fedora FESCO Engineering Steering Committee for the last 6 months. I think I'm the youngest member in FESCO. And I've been in the Fedora project for 10 years probably, mostly in the packaging side, but also at a certain point in the ambassador side as well. I do work for Red Hat, but doing completely different things. So effectively, I am here only as a community member, not really as a Red Hat person.
I'm Stephen Gallagher. Not exactly sure how many years I've been on FESCO at this point, but it predates Matthew's term as FPL, so yeah, and many.
Wait, really? That's it? That's it? So we get to know about you?
Let me talk and I'll keep talking.
Okay, all right. My name is David Cantrell. I work for Red Hat. I'm closing in on 20 years there. I've done a lot of stuff, worked on many projects. These days I'm on the software management team, which is RPM and DNF and sort of that adjacent software. Actually, yeah, I've lost count of how many years I've been on FESCO, but I joined after Flock in Budapest. That was when I ran. So I've been on it since then.
So hi, I'm Neil Gompa. I've been around in Fedora, I don't know, I think according to the earliest records I have of me being a contributor was 2006, so quite a long time. Mostly in the packaging, software stuff. And I do a bunch of little things here and there. A little thing you might know called Fedora KDE is the thing that I do. But I've been in FESCO since Fedora 32, 2020, so this makes it my 6th year here. And yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
So, hey, I'm Fabio Valentini. You probably know me by the nickname I go by, that's Deckerthorpe. Yeah, I've been contributing to Fedora for a little bit more than 10 years now. I started packaging the Pantheon desktop where Neil mentored me. Did some Python packaging, Java packaging, then I gave that up, and now I'm basically the Rust guy and have started doing some cryptography stuff with OpenPGP and something, not really how I ended up there, but yeah, that kind of happened. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been on FESCO with one break, I think, for the past 4 years or something, and on Fedora Packaging Committee for like 7 years, and yeah, now I'm basically the Rust guy, so you're welcome. I won't make any rewrite it in Rust jokes, so don't worry.
So we're going to take questions from here, the audience live, but also for the people that are attending online on Matrix. So any questions so far? Okay.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. As Jeff told about his focus in AI, and what's FESCO's thoughts on it? Which direction do you folks plan on taking this?
I'll take a quick stab. I think I am not a complete AI skeptic, nor am I a complete AI is great and does everything. I think we have to be very careful to figure out how we can use AI, ethically and energy efficiently, and yet also using it in a way that is beneficial, because just shoving it everywhere is not the answer. The answer is to look considerably, just like any other tool. How can we use this? Where can we use this? Where is a good place? And I think there are places, and I think we just need to figure those out, and we need to be careful not to do the wrong thing here. So we need to be cautious. So, anyways.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that as well, but also mention that we had talked about in the council with the 2028 vision, the sort of having Fedora be, carry the software and tooling and kind of focusing on the engineering aspect and having it be ready for developers that are wanting to work on AI type projects or tooling or things like that. So I share Kevin's sentiments, just kind of, we need to be cautious and careful and stuff like that. But then on the engineering side, like preparing Fedora with the right tooling and things like that to make it a viable platform, I think is at least the thing I'm concerned with.
Yeah, so I'm extremely optimistic, and I will talk. I see this question to be twofold. One thing is, as we as a project talk about us using AI and deploying it in our infrastructure with our data, that's one fold of the question, and there I go with Kevin and what has been said. And there I am extremely optimistic in self-hosted AI, which is us as a developers and people who run their own computers are able to run their own models locally on their hardware. And that's something where I would like to see Fedora being first-class citizen and helping AI developers to be able to spawn their machines, do their development easily, safely. That's my stance.
So I'd like to give a little, to be a little bit more specific in my answer, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, let's, I don't want to be unethical, but I also don't want to, I think, to put a line on it, I think I view AI as a potentially useful tool that should assist human beings, and I don't think, but I am a pretty hard line against the idea of AI replacing any process entirely without human involvement. I don't think that is a good use. Well, I don't think that can lead anywhere good. But I do think that there is a gray area. How much coding assistance is okay? How much automated detection is okay? And I think, like I said, I think the answer there is that anything that allows for humans, allows for making it quicker for a human to respond is an opportunity. Anything that tries to take humans out of the equation is a risk.
And I agree with pretty much everything that was said, but I will add that in the previous talk there was a question like what is the role, the position of Fedora, and for me it is the place where the development of the Linux technology happens, and I mean we are the leader in that, and if we want to remain in that position, then we need to, I mean we really have no choice but to embrace stuff that comes. So like, for example, we have the trusted computing stack, and people are making efforts to make it possible to use it in Fedora, and either we do it and allow it, or we stop being used and people move on to something else. And with AI tooling, it's, I think, kind of the same.
So my thought about this is ultimately anything that we use still has to retain the quality of being able to support accountability for people. So I vaguely remember, and I'll probably misquote this, but like at some point IBM used to have a thing where they said, because computers can't think, like they can't be accountable, so a computer should not be making a decision for you. And I don't remember what the exact quote is, but like the sentiment makes sense. And so the thing that kind of concerns me is how people talk about machine learning and AI technologies as a reductive force rather than an additive force. Like it's not a multiplier. It's a way to reduce costs or all this other stuff. It's the wrong, from my point of view, it's the wrong way to think about machine learning technologies in general, because the cost reduction is a one-time gain, and then you have a many times fail coming afterwards. So when we talk about bringing AI ML into Fedora, we should be positioning it as an additive force for supporting all kinds of things, not just code and things like that, and translations and whatever, because those are the easy parts actually. The hard parts are stuff where you're trying to augment people's lifestyles and integrate, improve general quality of life. Those are the things that I think where you have a much more diverse user base and you have a bigger pool of consideration that we need to account for as part of bringing in this technology and exposing it to more people. And generally in the commercial space, I mean, I was at Red Hat Summit, I was at SUSECon, I was at Scale, I was at a bunch of places. In the commercial space, this is not discussed. And I think this is a big part of the negative framing around AI ML, and we need to kind of reframe it in a more of a quality of life enhancement thing. And that means bringing the tooling in and starting the conversations on using this tooling that we have in Fedora to improve people's quality of life.
Personally, I do see the idea of bringing all the tooling, the AI tooling or toolkits into Fedora a great idea. We should do it tomorrow, if possible, or today.
How about yesterday?
Oh, yeah, yesterday. Sorry, I missed the memo there. But the other point is the usage of it. So we have seen a long conversation a while ago, I think it was roughly a year ago, about the metrics stuff. I think that we should not go that way again with AI, in the sense that as long as we have things that we are sure enough that are safe and do not share any data outside the system and everything like that, then they can be enabled. But I would be way more careful on the usage of AI baked in the system, just to avoid things like the Microsoft Windows recall, however that thing is called. I would personally not endorse anything like that anytime soon. So while obviously giving the user the ability to develop AI software, that's absolutely one of the things Fedora should do.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh no. Oh God.
Hi, guys. Matthew and Jeff have both talked about Fedora Strategy 2028. I was curious, in your day-to-day activities as FESCO members, do you think about this, or is that somebody else's thing?
Oh boy, you do not ask the nice questions, do you? I kind of keep it in mind a little bit, but a lot of the Fedora Strategy 2028 stuff doesn't really fit with what people are actually working on. So it doesn't, there's not much to align on when it comes to the day-to-day work of us processing Fedora changes or steering technical direction and things like that. We do even have a little question that shows up on the change template of like, hey, does this align with any of the themes for Fedora Strategy? Almost universally, no one fills it out. So like I think the question to ask isn't to ask us whether we think about it. The question is, does the larger community feel like the strategy actually makes any sense for them to incorporate it into their thought process? And I think right now, to put bluntly, I think the answer is no. Most people just ignore it. And so that's something that either is a misalignment from council to the community, or the community doesn't see anything from it, or there's no visibility. There's a myriad of potential causes for that, and maybe that's something to look at, but it is not something that from the FESCO day-to-day, at least from my point of view, that it comes up, even though I am thinking about it. It just, I'm not going to force people to align it to a Fedora strategy goal. That just seems kind of silly.
I probably have a different take on it. So I'm the engineering representative on the Fedora Council. So I do think about this more than Neil does. But Neil has a point that FESCO, I mean, we meet weekly for an unbounded length meeting.
120 minutes officially.
Yeah, and we do that because we process, very technical things that come up, like we really get into the details. That's kind of the point of the committee. And we ask each other questions. We ask the proposal authors questions. We really try to get in there and make sure that we have everything covered so that we can vote on it appropriately. So in that respect, the day-to-day, I don't think everyone on FESCO is really thinking about 2028, but I'm thinking about it probably more than the others. I don't know. I'm going to take a guess, but only because I'm involved with the council. So I've got that in the back of my head as well. And I think that a lot of the stuff that shows up broadly aligns, but at the end of the day, a lot of our tickets that we're processing, change proposals, are so very minute details. They don't really have a direct alignment. It's just it's a necessary thing that has to be done, or something like that. But yeah.
I'd actually like to turn the question around a little bit on the council and ask what exactly they would like to see from FESCO in terms of trying to enforce an alignment on strategy.
Steve, we have our AMA tomorrow.
Consider that, yes, consider that question submitted for tomorrow, but I'm not entirely sure what, FESCO is more a tactical body than it is a strategic one. The council sets Fedora's strategy, but we manage the minutia, the day-to-day. And so it's a lot harder. We need perhaps a little more guidance from the council as to what, do they want us to decline change proposals that don't align? That's I don't think that I don't think the answer to that is yes, but I think we need a little more input.
We need to make people start filling out that section about the strategy.
The mic.
So I think that the strategy is more about the community. I think we are doing kind of well on the technological front in Fedora, but we are struggling with growing of the community, and this is, I think that this is something that we need to, we should smooth the sponsorship process and make it easier to extend to new hardware and stuff like that. And this all ties back to having new contributors and more contributors. And I don't think the FESCO is not really directly involved in that.
I'll add to that FESCO is kind of more a reactive body than a proactive body. FESCO doesn't have, can't say, oh, we're going to do this and we need these 12 people to work on that, because we don't have 12 people. We have us volunteering to do things. So I think it's very difficult from where we are to, we're reacting to things that the community is bringing to us to do rather than proposing new things to do ourselves. So I think it's difficult for us to change that flow. It's got to be a community-driven thing that the community wants to bring to us, things that more align with that goal, I think.
Questions?
So at the end of last year, FESCO undermined the trust of the community in the Fedora as an organization. In the recent election spills, I didn't see anyone make mention of that. I would like to know how FESCO is going to fix the problem they have created within the community, and how they're going to improve moving forward.
So to turn the question around, the council, in cooperation with FESCO, published a statement 2 weeks ago that, I mean, the core part of the statement was actually written by us, so it's drafted by us. And it outlines some specific steps for improvement. Do you find those convincing, or do you think that something is lacking?
That was more about improving the packaging process, not FESCO as a committee and FESCO in their openness. And there was a few bits and pieces there, but I am waiting to see. It's been nearly 6 months.
Yeah, to kind of elaborate on that, I think the council statement, one of the things they mentioned was that there was no process being followed. It was sort of like made up as we went along, and that was a large, in my opinion, a large part of the problem. And I believe the council statement, or the statement, mentioned that FESCO should actually have a policy for these sort of things. So I think in the upcoming weeks, months, whatever, there should be policy proposed, discussed in the community, consensus gathered on it, and then there would be an actual policy on that. And I think that would help greatly to, handle those sort of concerns. But
Hey, completely unrelated. How do you see emerging architectures like RISC-V?
Emerging architectures is a good way to put it. I think there's an interesting opportunity over the long tail, the mid to long-term future, that there could be something interesting to come out of it. Consider myself pessimistically optimistic about the nature of emerging architectures. So I've kind of gone through this rigmarole in some respect with the ARM stuff, and that has not gone as well as I think many people would have hoped. The RISC-V stuff, as the RISC-V stuff has come up, I have been engaged, and I know a number of other FESCO members have been engaged on multiple fronts, both in Fedora and in upstream spaces and in side spaces. I know I personally have been involved a little bit in the upstream RISE community, as well as in the KDE spaces, as well as within the Fedora context for this. The general thing I see from this is I am very, very, very concerned that RISC-V will turn into a smorgasbord of disconnected puzzle pieces that we cannot assemble to something that can be useful. I do not know how it will actually turn out, but this is something that I am wary about and trying to see how this will unfold.
If I may, just one small addition. You call yourself pessimistically optimistic. I would phrase it as, if I may, possibilistic. It is possible, but many factors have to come into play: the ISA specifications, the RISE ecosystem, and so on.
That's a technical way to phrase it. I was referring to more of the emotional way I could perceive it.
That's fair, totally fair.
So I think that looking at architectures, we have a few that are nowadays very predominant in the market, and obviously we have to serve them, like x86, 64, ARM, those kind of ones. Then we do have some niche ones, such as PPC and S390. And then there are the emerging ones. And I think that the reality will be that we will need to balance the willingness to be first at supporting those architectures, which we will not be first probably, because other distros are leading the way on those kind of things. But in the other hand, also the complexity that it brings to the project to support one more architecture, and the burden that puts on every packager in the community. So I think it's important for us to find that balance. I'm not sure if RISC-V is yet to that point, also because of the fragmentation and the fact that we do need to have build servers and all the other stuff, which are some kind of issues. So I think that I personally don't see Fedora on 15 different architectures like other distros, but I would hope to see Fedora on a few more.
So I agree with the balance thing, but I think we should put the thumb on the scale of being of accepting a little bit more risk than we would like. I think that for example, the integration of the Apple stuff, I mean, it's a bit on the side, but it turned out to be quite useful and good for the project, and like delaying forever until we are sure it's safe is not really a good strategy. And I think we should try to move forward with RISC-V now, even though we know that the hardware is lacking and there are many, many issues.
I'll just add to what was said mostly by Neil, and there is like I just hope we will not end up in the same space that we end up as a project with AArch64, where we were one of the first distributions that had stable AArch64 images, but the only hardware you could run it on costs tens of thousands of dollars. So I just hope we will not end up in the same space with RISC-V, because that just cut us off from the potential contributors who are running on those architectures.
One thing I noticed with emerging architectures, in RISC-V, like similar to MIPS, continuing that, where, and even with ARM, those architectures have lacked a common hardware platform-like design. So at the end of the day, to get good buy-in on a platform, you need to put systems in front of developers. And it can't be the fragmentation of embedded devices and things like that. And I look at MIPS. MIPS kind of failed that way. There was no reference platform. The CPU, great, it's open. IBM tried with Power. They did the chirp thing, and then Apple went and did Prep or whatever. Or I've got it backwards. But again, you had no common platform, and at the end of the day, everyone's using an Intel system because it's the PC as much as we hate it, and your PC is the same as my PC. It's like there is some value to that, and getting systems in front of developers. So I hope that with RISC-V, we have some coordination in the hardware vendor space where we get some designs like that. I know they're going to want to vary, but I think that's the big thing that they need. Like ARM failed at that, and they don't care either, but they just didn't quite get to that point. So I'm hoping to see that with RISC-V. Which is great. That's great to hear. Yeah. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. You said. Yes. Sorry. Yes. You said that they're working on that server group upstream. It's all open and things like that, which is what I was agreeing with. I did this backwards. Jeez. Okay. Sorry.
But that brings up the point of the problem I kind of have with this, is that, yes, there's a server working group, but what about the actual side where people work on the systems, the client side? One of the massive failures from my point of view for ARM was that they basically decided that they didn't really belong as a steward of this and didn't develop and enforce a reference in which every kind of client premises device, as well as the server devices, had a basic level of interoperability where we, as the operating system vendor, didn't have to care about all of the minutiae to even get the systems working. Let me finish. Things have improved in recent years, but it is still a mess. Between things like device tree and weird U-boots and stuff like that, that's the kind of stuff that adds hills and mountains to that maximum adoption. And I'm saying this as the Fedora Asahi Remix developer. This is the worst part of enabling an ARM platform, is dealing with that part. And it doesn't scale. we know it doesn't scale. So that is the part that like I want to see from the RISC-V side to acknowledge and fix.
The community is trying to learn from ARM's mistakes, so we'll see how that goes.
Was a question here or no?
Talking about community initiatives that are a bit on the technical side of things, what things and to what extent would FESCO like to be involved in A, requirements evaluation, and B, the democratization of the participation of community members in those projects? Take, for example, the ones that Fedora infrastructure takes, like the Forgeo move.
I think that's probably, I mean, it's not bad for us to be involved insofar as we kind of are the representatives of the technical community of it. Like, just like I would say Mindshare should be present as part of the representatives of the content community, like the design teams and stuff like that, like, and advocacy and the different functions of Fedora for central platforms should have their part in it. And that way we don't wind up with platforms that people don't want. Like some of the ones that we have in place for some of the async communication stuff that has been rolled out despite technical communities not wanting them, right? We don't want to be in that situation again and again and again.
Yeah, so I think that we as a FESCO community should at least approve or validate whatever the CLE team, which I'm a member of, whatever we came up, because we will for sure consult community, we will for sure have some feedback from people, but it would be extremely helpful if FESCO could sit down and you as all senior engineers, me included, could just sign off like, yeah, this seems like a reasonable technical solution, this seems like a reasonable set of technologies, and this seems like something that makes sense. And I think that that's a space where FESCO can provide some feedback. Question is how much time we have for that, because all of us are volunteering and there's a lot of stuff and the meetings are long. So I would love to see that. Question is how feasible it is.
Good morning, FESCO members. I have a question. Nothing bad. Why is everyone already laughing? I just wanted to know, since the Fedora project turned 40 in the last couple of releases, what has been the most exciting change that you've seen come through as a group that you've gotten to decide on? And also, what has been the most challenging change that you've had to work through as a group to decide on?
Oh, God.
Most exciting change, selecting Nano as the default editor. Oh, just kidding. It's tough, actually, to think about it. Like, I feel like for the most part, we're thinking about changes in how to minimize impact on users, but advance Fedora at the rate that it advances at. So in that respect, I can view all of them really as difficult. You got one? I do.
So I have one, simply because I'm very new to this. So in the last 6 months, I have the example of Wayland only sessions for Genome that will come in the coming release. We will still have to see the result, but I hope that it will work well. And personally, doing this decision and conversation, I looked back at a lot of conversations that happened while I was not in FESCO in other big choices, such as the migration to systemd, the first introduction of Wayland, Pulse Audio, and many others that previous FESCO people have done. And I really admire the fact that those people were able to make difficult decisions that were unpopular at the time and then became demonstrated to be good decisions after years.
So I'm actually gonna go jump in the Wayback Machine here to go all the way back to the very first flock for this one. one of the big outcomes of that very first flock was we basically took half a year off of releases to completely retool the entire Fedora project. We went from a single Fedora Linux release that was intended to be, the perfect OS for everyone, so thereby the, completely ineffective, hitting about 80% of the use case of anyone. And we retooled that to develop more, to really focus our efforts on a series of editions of Fedora that were targeted at particular use cases. And as a side effect of that, even if, I'm not about to say that that experiment in a technical sense was perfect. It certainly wasn't. But as a side effect of that, we rebranded Fedora, we retooled the community into actually focusing on these things. And I think that more even than the specific deliverables we came through, I think that exercise in getting people aligned towards individual specific visions and targeting particular use cases is a major part of why Fedora is still here, 12 years later? And still going strong.
Just as mentioned a little while ago, I was going to bring up the systemd one because it was a good example of like a big, long, contentious, argumentative, big process. And I think FESCO at the time did the right thing. We rejected it the first time it was submitted. We said, this is great and all, and there's a lot of advantages, but the documentation is not there. And, a lot of things are lacking. You need to address these things before we can actually land it in Fedora. And they did, and they came back the next time, and they said, look, we added all this documentation. We did these things that you said last time, and that was when we added it. And I think that was a really good success story of a contentious process that actually ended up giving us something that was actually much better in the end.
The only problem with that was the timing that it also matched the GNOME 3.0. So having those both hit at the same time was a bit rough. But
so something that didn't yet happen, but the switch to a new GitForge. I think that even if it will not be an actual change, but I think we will have a change for it. Okay. So in a sense, there was a previous attempt to switch to GitLab, right? We were pretty close to, it even seemed inevitable at one point to some people. And it was kind of rejected by FESCO and by the community. And now we'll have another attempt at ForJO. And I think this seems much better. I think that you have support in the community. Technologically, it seems much more reasonable. And I hope it will reinvigorate our development efforts for packaging. It gives us a chance to do a lot of things better.
So for me, it's not necessarily any particular change. Like the whole change process and the fact that you are on the FESCO board, it means that you're supposed to go through deeply through the changes and understand them. So that process itself, that's probably the most enjoyable part that I have from being on there. And from the recent days or recent releases, it's probably the Anaconda changes. So I personally haven't seen the Anaconda installer for like 10 years. That says you something about the stability of DNF upgrade. So I had a chance to see what it's coming in, and it's amazing to see that we are progressing and we are not stuck in the same waves for years. So.
I have a question, and I don't want to accidentally phrase it in a contentious way, so grace and space. It's two parts, though. The first part is, by show of hands, how many of you have been a member of FESCO for 3 or more years? So I view part of FESCO's role as shepherding the change and introduction of new technology and other pieces. Off the cuff, because you weren't prepared for this, how are you all thinking about making space for new people in FESCO, but the continuing contribution of those of us who are graying and have a lot of good resources and ideas? I'm kind of echoing what Jeff brought up earlier.
So every time we have elections, honestly, there are not a lot of nominations for the open FESCO seats. Oftentimes, it'll be the same exact people that either self-nominate or someone else on FESCO puts their name in. And I know, Neil, I know you've said, like, well, we should at least have a couple more people run.
I dragged this guy in because
and
I wanted some new people in.
Right, and I don't know if it's a matter of people not understanding the eligibility or if they can do it, or if it's like a long process. You know, we should probably write up something that explains that. But I've thought that maybe to cycle through, we should consider term limits, just because that would force some people to cycle through.
But maybe like you can serve twice consecutively.
Sure.
And then, like,
Yeah.
After one cycle off, you can come back. or
Right.
something like that. But
Yeah.
you know, one thing that keeps me out of FESCO is it's a huge time commitment.
So that's the other thing is people look like I'll talk to people and say, hey, there's an election coming up. Would you be interested in running? Well, what does it involve? And I'm like, it's great. We have these weekly like unbounded meetings
That are
and they're
120 minutes.
and you also have to do a bunch of homework before the meeting, and it's great, And well, what do you get for it? Your name on a web page, and it's so.
And rank links by
There's so I don't know. Maybe we could sell it a bit better, but I think that's a valid concern because we should be making new contributors aware that they can run on FESCO. They can, if they have a voice, they can do this. And yeah.
Yeah. So this has been so I actually personally only started running for FESCO once I had an idea of how the heck did I block time off for it. Because this was something that used to come, for a long time, I wanted to be part of it, but the long time frame and the undefined knowledge of how it's supposed to work was difficult. Then I started sending my own changes and having to participate in FESCO meetings involuntarily, and started getting a much better understanding of what that was supposed to be. And I've actually, I've done a fair bit of trying to encourage and mentor other people to be part of it. Fabio was actually the first one I've done this, but I've done it with a couple of others. The one that's not here, Michelle, was another person that I kind of shepherd that person into becoming part of FESCO. And it's something that I enjoy doing, is I like helping people become more engaged in the process and become part of it. And that's not necessarily to say that I want to be replaced, but I would certainly like to have I value broader perspectives, more perspectives on things, because I think that helps make us better. It's part of the reason I'm involved in lots of Linux communities and not just Fedoras, because I think being in a bubble screws you up. And so not being in a bubble, or at least puncturing the bubble a little bit every once in a while, can give you a much greater understanding of things beyond, what you perceive and what you directly see. So I think it's very valuable for us to bring in more people. And I've even thought of what if we just added one more person and added another slot? Or maybe we shuffled the slots or something like that. There's a bunch of things to do, but I think the biggest problem is that it is very, very hard for people to conceptualize what kind of effort it takes to be on FESCO until they engage in some part of this process. So you tend to see people come in after they've done a few change proposals and been engaged in the full cycle of the engineering process, and then they feel more comfortable with the idea of being engaged with us. And frankly, that's a very small pool of people in Fedora. The vast majority of people who are packagers or technical people are not engaged at that level in Fedora. So that's why you tend to see maybe the same people, but a very small subset of people. This is also why I have gone out of my way to start doing more mentoring and other things. I've brought up 3 SIGs with brand new contributors in the past year. And this has been a part of the thing that I try to do, to try to encourage more engaged and people that can be part of this process.
So I would say I think it is a very valid concern, and I think we should be thinking about it. Another issue that plays into this, though, is that the elections for FESCO are very much like kind of a knowledge recognition type of thing. So if you're a new person, even if you're interested, you have the time, maybe you have the ability to serve on the committee, you throw your name in the election ring, and then like the voters, who are the technical people who have been around a while, don't know your name, don't know what you do, and so they're like, oh, I don't know who that guy is, so I would just vote for the people I'd normally vote for. So I think there's that aspect of it. I think we could do more about like maybe having some kind of, here's how you, if you're interested in this sort of thing, here's how you learn more about it. You know, here you can attend meetings, you can look at these changes, you can provide comments, you can actually, you know, step up and provide even that without the voting aspect of it, you could do that. But then again, it's a thankless job that's, you know, a lot of time, so.
Yeah, I also agree that this is a problem, and I don't think that there is an easy solution. I like the idea of having to take a break every once in a while, like 2 terms and maybe one to skip. But there are other bodies that you can get involved in particular the working groups. I think that it would be great if we had more people in the server and workstation working groups being more active and taking more of a role of driving some parts or the RISC-V group and so on and so on.
What I wanted to say is that while being on FESCO and working on stuff, it might look intimidating at first, but you don't have to know everything when you start. No, you don't have to know anything, basically. I mean, you do learn on the job. That's part of what you do. You don't need to know everything when you run or when you start on FESCO. I mean, yes, it takes time to read the mailing list posts. It takes time to follow the discussions about change proposals. But you don't need to. I mean, you don't need to read the discussion for every change proposal. You can just say, I am not comfortable enough with this topic to vote on this. I know that you guys are all very knowledgeable with that, and I trust that you'll make the right decision. You can just say, I didn't have enough time to spend on this. You do it. You don't need to do everything all the time, and that helps when you're starting, and it kind of limits the time that you need to spend on it. And of course, over time, you'll get more comfortable with more topics and with more parts of the process. For example, it almost looks like new FESCO members are always a bit intimidated by running their first meeting, because we rotate the person who runs the meetings, and that's always, ooh, I'm not sure if I can do this, it's my first time, and you'll be fine. So yeah, it's the whole process is pretty well documented, and there's not much you can do wrong, and even if something goes wrong, there's always time and a way to fix it. So.
And yet half the time I still open the meeting on the wrong channel.
The last question, what a treat. So, there's, I'm sure you've all heard of the Universal Blue community. In the last 6 months, there's, I think, almost 20,000 weekly users a day, and there's about 200 contributors, which is amazing. And it's amazing to see Fedora used in this way. So my question is, how has that new audience or group of contributors factored into your decision making?
I don't think it has right now, and because it generally, although this is now slowly changing, Universal Blue as a downstream has basically not engaged with Fedora as an upstream. This is something that I've kind of reached out and started to try to change things. I know a couple of other people have. I expect to see some improvements on this front in the coming year. But I would say that a downstream that's not engaged with us as an upstream is a downstream that we kind of can't account for. Because without engaging with us, we can't know anything. We're not mind readers. And what they say publicly might not be what they actually mean to say to us from different point of views or different things like that. And so, I mean, sure, it's great. And they're obviously doing stuff. I'm personally a fan of Bazite because I feel like purposeful appliance experiences work very well with that technology. And Bazite is a good example of it. A lot of the other stuff I've seen have been less good examples of it. But Bazite is, I think, a shining example of how you can leverage this stuff well and do something that actually makes sense with the tech. It's a complicated situation, but like I think we'll see improvements on that front. And as Universal Blue becomes more engaged with us as Fedora upstream, I think we will naturally start seeing their concerns integrated into the overall decision-making process, because when you're part of the Fedora community, then that sort of just naturally happens over time.
Neil, would another way to say that is you'd like to see Universal Blue more like what Asahi is?
Yes, yes, more or less. So Dusty was like, do I want to see Universal Blue operate more or less like how Fedora Asahi Remix does, where we're very close to the project and we essentially engage and coordinate very closely to support things, even if we are doing things sort of side along or outside? And the answer to that is yes, and I think that makes it much easier for us to be able to account for them. I think we do, like for example, in Fedora KDE's SIG and the Personal Systems Working Group, we do a good job of accounting for Asahi stuff and bubbling that up into the other spaces because they're engaged with us through that avenue. We don't really have that in for Bazite yet in particular, although Noel is here, and one of the priorities that he and I have for being here at Flock is actually setting that up. And so that's something that we want to actively improve over the next year. We'll see if that propagates to the rest of Universal Blue, but I know that Bazite has specifically been interested in being more part of Fedora upstream. So that is, I can't make them come to me, but if they want to come to me, then I'm happy to help them be part of, be more engaged with Fedora.
You're willing to make some concessions then?
I am willing to have discussions with them and we can figure out what to do there. More than that, I am not willing to promise.
So in general, I think that we should keep our downstreams close as much as possible.
Right.
And the more engagement we have, the better it is for both sides. I mean, it is certainly more work for both sides, but then we can do changes faster and we can avoid changes happening in the upstream that downstream doesn't like and then has to deal with. Like also for other things like RPM-OS 3, we are only now integrating the development of those images with the upstream like core Fedora workflows, and it's still not complete. And in hindsight, I mean, we should have done that much earlier.
I kind of wish we made that a request when they became an addition, but like it was. I think that was my main problem when Fedora CoreOS became an addition, was that they weren't made to become part of the Fedora engineering process, and keeping them very separate has led to special levels of dysfunction that I don't think we wanted to actually have. And so those are the kinds of mistakes I want to avoid with stuff like this. Like even with Fedora Asahi Remix, like we try very, very hard to minimize the amount of stuff we do actually outside of Fedora because it really messes up the coordination and the integration efforts that we do. That's why, for example, the FEX change that enabled in Fedora KDE the ability to run x86 applications on ARM through emulation, particularly for gaming, we did it in Fedora to make it work for Fedora Asahi Remix. And we made sure that there was a variant of Fedora that had it, that matched our flagship, and provided a consistent experience for that within Fedora as a project, because we wanted it to benefit both of us at the same time. That's the kind of thing that Noel and I are discussing about for Bassite in particular, is figuring out how we can get those touch points in place. And it's not just Universal Blue. There's a couple of other ones that some of us have been reaching out to and engaging with to kind of bring more of those downstreams closer to upstream. But we'll see how it goes, right? Like, we can only try our best and see what happens.
Okay, thanks a lot for answering the questions. And if you will have any other questions, you will find them around. Now we will have a 30 minutes break. And for those of you that need vegan or gluten-free food, you have them at the back close to the opal door. So thanks a lot and see you in 30 minutes.
just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, honey. Oh, I heard through the grapevine. I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey. Oh, angels sent from up above. You know you make my world light up. When I was down, when I was hurt, you came to lift me up. Life is a dream and love's a drug. Oh no, I think I lost in myself. When I was up, we were right up. You came to rid us up. Say drink for me, when I was so thirsty. We're on a symphony. No, I just can't get enough. So it's on me, when I was so heavy. We're on a symphony. When I am low, 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 low. Feeling drunk and high, so high, so high. Coursing through my blood. Life is a drink, your love is a vow to make the stars come out. Joey's on me, when I was so heavy. We're on a symphony. When I am low, 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 low. Feeling drunk and high, so high, so high. Feeling drunk
the skies by this morning, and my mind on the run. Can't forget the love I'm feeling when I follow the sun. If you ever want my love again, you're coming home, and then I will give you all the love I can. Just hold me and be my friend. Once I left my home in sorrows, live my life on the road. Who will calm my tears on this lonely night? Time to lay down slow. And I know you're still waiting. I'm coming home. If you ever want my love again, if you ever want my love, you're coming home, and then I will give you all the love I can. I will give you all. Just hold me and be my friend. If you ever want my love again, if you ever want my love, you're coming home, and then I will give you all the love I can. I will give you all. Just hold me and be my friend.
And the striped legs, the Spider-Man comes softly through the shadow of the evening sun, stealing past the windows of the blissfully dead, looking for the victim, shivering in bed, searching at fear in the gathering gloom, and suddenly a movement in the corner of the room. There is nothing I can do when realized with fright the Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight. Quietly he laughs and shaking his head, creeps closer now, closer to the foot of the bed, and softer than the shadow and quicker than flies. His arms are all around me and his song in my eyes. Be still, be calm, be quiet now, my precious boy. Don't struggle like that or I will love you more. For it's much too late to get away or turn on the light. The Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight, and I feel like I'm being eaten by 1,000 million shivering furry holes. And I know that in the morning I will
she's trouble. She gets it to me good. My woman gives me power. Goes right down to my blood. What you doing on your back? Hey, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah. What you doing on your back? Ooh, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah. My baby moves at midnight, goes right on till the dawn. Yeah, my woman takes me higher. My woman keeps me warm. What you doing on your back? Hey, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah. What you doing on your back? Hey, what you doing on your back? Hey, you should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah. You should be 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 da He should be dancing, yeah. I'm coming back to you just like before. I've been a lonely boy since I walked out your door. If there's a life for us, I don't know. But I can live like this anymore. The time I spend alone has nothing to give.
Sorry, we are starting now.
It's repetition. I'm coming back to you. Repetition. The only thing I can do. I'm coming back to you. This time to stay. If I have learned one thing, is that I can't stay away.
Okay, it seems people are still coming.
The time I spend alone has nothing to give. The life I live alone has no right to live. It's repetition.
Hello, everyone. So we are starting again with the next talk. Slowly. So we have the next speaker, Otto, who will speak about making the most of 4Geo, upcoming features you should know. So folks, can we please just be a little quiet so we can leave the space to the speaker? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Unfortunately, it's only me today. Initially, we wanted to be two of us, but Vivian got ill, so greetings from the Netherlands, but it's only me today. About myself, I'm Otto. I'm a student of computer science from Berlin, Germany. If I'm not working on software, I'm working on event technology, so it's not my first time on stage, but the first time as a speaker, actually. And yeah, I will just tell you a tiny story about how I got to be active in Codeberg. So in 2018, I wanted to push some code. I wanted to start a project, and I wanted it not to be on GitHub because it just felt a little bit wrong. And I found Codeberg. Back then it was still called T-Hub, and I even wrote them an email. It was not public yet. I got access to the staging systems. And so I was among the very first users of Codeberg. The project I wanted to push there actually still has no single line of code, but I did a lot of other stuff in the meantime. So in 2021, I got involved with elected positions in Codeberg, and since 2022, I'm the executive director of Codeberg. Codeberg itself is a non-profit, so my position is unfortunately not paid, but yeah, about 4Geo, and I'm trying to tell this using a 4Geo feature itself, which is the commit graph. So I tried to build a timeline using only Git. You can see that the origins of 4Geo actually date back to Gox, which is a Git service written in Go. I suppose that's what the name comes from. And it was created almost like with only a few months difference when Pegure was created. And a while later, in 2016, Git was forked from Gox. I suppose that some users here might know Git actually. And in 2018, or like at the start of 2019, I think, let me spoil it, yeah. Codeberg was launched based on this self-hostable Git service. And Codeberg had the aim to build several services based on this So we also have Woodpecker CI, we have a Pages server, we have WebLate, which allows software translation. So we are a hosted bundle of services that should ideally work together very well. A while later, by the end of 2022, the maintainers of Giti, or actually the founders, announced that they want to create a for-profit company, and they transferred the domain and the trademarks to this. This came to surprise for most of the maintainers, and the community was really upset. So quite some people started an open letter, and but the open letter wasn't received very well. So a few months later, by the end of 2022, Forgeo was created under the umbrella of Codeberg, and that's why I'm personally a Forgeo maintainer since day zero, not because I wrote the first line of code, but because I was involved with all the forking efforts. Codeberg deployed Forgeo, and I'm very happy that Fedora chose to move to Forgeo. So I suppose that most people in this room will sooner or later have to deal with the software, and that's why I'm doing some introduction to you. But I want to ask a question. Who of the people in this room are not going to use Forgeo for software development? Like, who is not going to write code using Forgeo? Please raise your arms. That's pretty good to know, because this is some focus that we have on our roadmap, because it was created from developers for developers, but we're really trying to extend the scope, because software development is about much more than code. And by the way, like last year, I got a phase where I was really frustrated by technology. So since 1.5 years maybe, I'm really diving into user research and user testing. This is currently my main focus for Forgeo, so I'm not doing a lot of code recently. Yeah. If you are going to use Forgeo, it will probably look a lot like very empty, like this. But I'm pretty sure you will figure it out, creating repositories. Maybe you get access to a repository, you will probably find the stuff. But I want to highlight one thing. This is a migration feature. Forgeo allows you to import Git repositories from other platforms very easily. Unfortunately, it does not yet allow to import them easily from Pigure. So yeah, this maybe someone contributes this, but it allows you to migrate from Forgeo instances, for example, if you have a project somewhere else, or like you decide for Forgeo for your personal project and decide to move elsewhere. It's pretty easy to actually migrate stuff. Like if you entered an access token, you can check what you want to migrate. And it will happen, which works pretty well for medium to and small size projects. The larger the project, the higher the chances that there are some edge conditions. For example, the GitHub API recently changed and does no longer allow the page-based API for issues after a certain issue size. We don't really know why, but things are moving, so we constantly have to update it. There's actually an upcoming thing which will hopefully make this much easier, which is a friendly forge format. It's called friendly forge format, or F3, because we expect only friendly forges to implement it, so probably not GitHub, but we hope this will become the de facto standard to move between Forgeo and other services. It's quite active, so yeah, I hope we will see this in the future. A lot of people ask about CI/CD, so I will show you something. This is Delightful Forgeo, which is a project on Codeberg. I don't know if you know the Delightful list, there are quite a lot of them, but there's also one for Forgeo. And whenever you need something, chances are pretty high that someone already did something similar that could either be used as is, or maybe you can contribute to it. And as you can see, there's a wide inventory of things that you can do with Forgeo, and there are several CI/CD solutions for Forgeo. There are basically two approaches. There's like the simple approach using webhooks. So whenever you push something, a webhook will trigger to your CI, and your CI has a simple status to report back. And this works, for example, with Woodpecker, which is a fork of Drone, It works with Jenkins. There is a source.hut CI bridge because I don't know if someone loves the source.hut CI, but a lot of people do. And there are several other CI services that integrate this way. And there's also an upcoming or like pretty recent feature called ForJO Actions. It is inspired by GitHub Actions, so it's not similar. Like it is similar, but it is not equal. You will face some differences. Maybe I will explain this in a moment because I suppose that many people will run into it. So GitHub Actions basically runs your stuff in a large VM, and it has nearly all of the software pre-installed. So whatever you need, chances are pretty high that it is available. For ForJO Actions, you could do the same, but what we actually do is we launch containers based on OCI images. There's also support for raw LXC containers if you really want to install an operating system yourself. This works as well. But the default is to run either on Docker or on Podman. Docker is like the more famous option. It has better support, but on Codeberg we are also using a rootless Podman, so that works equally. But you need a base image. And for most software, there are base images available. For example, there's a Go image, there might be a Python image, and whatever. This works, but the ForJO Actions ecosystem relies on kind of plugins, which are called actions, which are written in Node.js. And so in order to execute these scripts, you need Node.js available in your container image. So there are basically two options. Either you install Node.js everywhere, or you build container images. So that include your software like Go plus Node.js. I think it's pretty annoying, and I'm pretty sure that the community will figure it out. So either we will create default images for all software that has Node.js pre-installed, or maybe we reinvent the actions, because I'm not sure if we really need to have a Node.js runtime in order to run git checkout, but that's the current state of GitHub Actions, unfortunately. Yeah, and I've read the ForJO user stories, and a lot of people told me that they miss status checks and auto merge. Actually, it is available, and I will quickly demonstrate this. So if you want to have branch protection and auto merge, you first need to create branch protection in the repository settings by adding a new rule. You need to enter the protection pattern. You can enter a branch name. You can use wildcards. Actually, from a usability perspective, this form is a nightmare. It has millions of options. You'll figure them out. They're explained at least, but the most important thing is the enable status check. It has a list of all the status checks that ran recently in the repository, and it might feel a little bit cumbersome that you actually you can copy them, but you can also just enter a pattern, which makes it somewhat powerful if you have dynamic workflows, if you frequently change them. And so in this example, I'm trying to run all, I want to require all tests to pass, and I want to require one specific linter to pass. So I'm saving this, and I prepared two pull requests. Both of them have failing tests, but one can be merged and the other cannot. So currently the test is broken for some reason, so you can't merge the linter PR because a required test is not passing. But you can merge the fixed test PR because it has all tests except one linter passing. So you can merge this run right now. I'm doing this on Codeberg because it has CI runner available conveniently. So I can just merge this branch, and right now what will happen is that the status checks are pending. I can't merge right now, but in the drop-down next to the merge commit, I can select the merge style, and by hovering over, by clicking on the clock, you can create a scheduled merge. So I will do this one. And yeah, it will take a while until the checks run, but basically this pull request will merge after the checks have passed. And yeah, I hope this works pretty well for you. Yeah, I want to showcase you something else that might be a little bit difficult for you, which is the permission management. I know that you will have very advanced use case, and I hope we will get to it. Currently, if you ever need to add someone, it unfortunately doesn't work via the Members tab, but via the Teams tab. So I will quickly create a team. You can call it however you want. You can either grant access to repositories one by one, or you can grant access to all repositories. You can optionally allow the team to create repositories in your organization. And you can either give them administrator access, but this also allows them to delete repositories and do kind of dangerous actions. Or you have this table that conveniently explains which access level grants which permissions. Unfortunately, it's currently not possible to grant a team read permission on one repository and push permission on another one. So currently you have to create 2 teams for this. But yeah, after you have the team created, you can either assign repositories if you don't have all of them assigned, or find users and add them to the team. I will also show you the issue tracker for a moment, because I heard from someone that it is currently not possible to add dependencies across issues. And actually it is. So I created 2 issues here. There are 2 features, and there's one issue that is refactoring, and the features depend on the refactoring. And I mean, the issue tracker, you will figure labels and projects and assignments and so on out yourself. But if you scroll down to dependencies, you can actually search for your issue that you want to have as a dependency, assign it. And currently you can't close this issue, I think, because it depends on the other one. I wonder why the button isn't grayed out, but okay, yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about upcoming stuff. So, as I said, I'm working on usability, and we're having a lot of stuff on the roadmap that we want to do pretty soon. So if any one of you wants to participate in user research in the next days, please let me know. I would be eager to learn from your workflow specific to the Fedora project, because I know how people do code, but I don't know the bigger picture, how it all integrates into your Fedora ecosystem yet. We have accessibility on the roadmap. Unfortunately, the UI frameworks that we use are pretty difficult, but we have new practices in place to avoid regressions. So I hope we're getting better over time. And there's a pretty recent new thing that is abuse reporting. So like the reporting feature is implemented, the admin panel is following right now. Because I know Fedora is currently facing a lot of spam on Matrix, I suppose this will be pretty useful to you. And it will be available with the next release. And last but not least, I want to show you one thing, because we want to build a new workflow for that avoids forking. Because currently, if you want to edit a file on GitHub, for example, you can't. You have to create a fork first. Then you have to edit your file in the fork. You need to keep your fork in sync. Actually, this is a lot of complicated stuff. We want to build something better. And what is already available, if you go to the Forgeo user guide on our website, there is this agit. Please check it out. And I will quickly do a quick demo. So if I clone a repository, then do something like this, and I will just copy this, badly prepared. And I want to push it back, and imagine in this case I don't have a permission to push it. So what I can do is I can push my current head to refs 4 and then the default branch. I hope it's main. Yes, it is main. And then I can optionally put a topic here, like new feature. I can optionally even assign a title, to it, or a description, and I couldn't get this custom SSH port to work via the hotel Wi-Fi, so I'm trying to use this one. And now it created a pull request, including the data that I entered. I might have misspelled the description, I'm sorry, but basically you can do all of that. But if you edit it again, you have to remember the command that you used for pushing. Oh, description is, yeah. And we want to build something that works more intuitively. It's work in progress. It's actually the topic of Vivian. She's working on it, but she's not here today. That's what we have right now. This works, so you don't have to create a fork. But yeah, we are working on something that works better. Yes?
That it's 18 workflow. Does it have some security implications? For example, if you use forks, you don't see the secrets of the fork. Oh, sorry. Yeah. That was too fast and I didn't read it. Yeah, so I was just curious. Like normally with forks, you don't see the secrets that are on the repo that you forked. How does it work here? Like when somebody submits this merge request, will the CI stop you running? I could get your secrets, you know.
This feature is currently intended that everything you do basically runs in the main repository. So it currently works by creating a pull request, and you will reuse the CI workflows from the main repository. If you want to do something custom regarding CI workflows, you can currently still fork and do a separate setup. But in most cases, people create a fork just to do a tiny fix and collaborate in the main repository. They don't set up new CI workflows, they just want it to run. And it saves a lot of steps regarding creation of forks, deletion of forks, keeping them in sync. You just have one remote in your local Git repository, which is also very convenient because especially new contributors are very confused that they have to add multiple remotes to your Git repository and know where to pull from and push to. And you just have one remote, you pull from it, you push back to it, and yeah, for the simple case, it works pretty well.
It's Gerrit workflow in this part, yeah. Thank you. So what permissions do I need to open this merge request? Like just being authenticated to the instance, or what permissions do I need to be able to open this pull request?
You don't need any specific permissions. You just need read access to this code to clone it, and then you can open a pull request.
So I can steal my secrets if I have secrets on the repository. I can just open a merge request as authenticated user and steal it. Now, currently.
I mean, if you have CI secrets that you don't want to see exposed, especially with ForJO actions, and I suppose other CI/CD solutions do this as well, you would specify the target. So currently, if I do something like on pull request target for GitHub or for ForJO actions, the CI workflow will execute with a state that is in the main repository, not in the pull request. And so if you have some secret, you should always only have it available for the workflows that run from the source definition and not from the one that the user sends in a pull request.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we get to questions, I just have one thing that I wanted to do. I know that many people never manage to pronounce Pagure correctly. So I want to practice with you how to pronounce ForJO. So it's inspired by the Esperanto word for forge. It is not Esperanto because it misses this accent over the G, but it's inspired. So ForJO, let's try together. 3, 2, 1. ForJO. Yes, I always wanted to do this. So, any other questions?
Hi. I have very specific technical question. So originally GTA doesn't allow you to use plus sign in repo names, and it's important for Fedora because in Fedora they have plus sign in some package's name. Is it fixed already, or Fedora has to work around this somehow?
I think it's not yet fixed. There is an open discussion regarding internationalization of project names because we actually want to accept all Unicode characters and repository names in the future. But we'll have to be careful because of the technical constraints in the backend. It might just work out of the box, but maybe it doesn't. So we need to write a lot of test code to cover this. But I think it is something that Fedora could contribute reasonably.
Thank you.
Hello, I have a question related to the migration from, for example, GitHub to 4JO. One of the big topics at the moment is GitHub's new AI pull requests and issues, which I would say is sort of creating an exodus to alternative forges. But one of the big features with GitHub is GitHub discussions. Is there any plans or anything on the roadmap for JO to have discussions? Because I'm aware at the moment you guys are effectively using an issue tracker. Is that right?
Yeah, so currently we are using an issue tracker and it works reasonably well for us. So like for us, the motivation to build something for something that is not a problem for us was pretty low. And but I think it would be reasonable to do this. In my personal opinion, the GitHub discussion feature was mostly moved to do like a vendor lock-in because like a lot of projects have shut down the personal forum and forced a lot of end users also to use GitHub. I don't know if it was a motivation, but I was never a fan of GitHub discussion specifically.
So I have a question with two parts. So I was, as you were adding the user, I was, and then doing the branch protections. Is this configuration version controlled and visible somewhere so that it can be edited programmatically? And also, is the history of the changes recorded so that we can see who changed and, for example, who modified the members of a team?
No, this is currently not version controlled. It's all in the database. And yeah, I know that some projects like Greeks, they have some script, maybe it works for you as well. They have a script that automatically creates the sessions. We will be having a session on Saturday. I think it will be 2 p.m. So I hope to see a lot of you again.
Okay. No, we've got two. We've got this one and here. Okay, so the control. Got it. Okay, sounds good.
Do you want to introduce yourself by yourself?
Oh, nice. We have a TV screen there. I was about to say it's like it would be nice to be able to see.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. And then that's moves around. Yeah. Do you want to control the slides, or do you want me to? So thanks with my. Why don't you take this mic, and I can just stand right here, I suppose. If that works. I also do like to walk when I talk, so depending on what makes you more comfortable, what would you like to do? All right. Don't panic. That's why I have my towel. Yeah, easy. Why don't we do two? Can we do two microphones rather than just being glued to the podium? Awesome. Yeah. Yes. Check. 1, 2. Sounds good. Hello, everybody. How we all doing? Are we awake, or are we just excited for lunch? Who wants to hear about gaming? Good. All right. Awesome. I think we're in the
Let's
right
go.
place. All right. We'll go ahead and do introductions, and we'll kick everything off.
So, a little bit about you.
Sure. So I'm a core maintainer on Bazite. I am a technical account manager as my day job for Red Hat. So specifically on Ansible. Don't know why I'm giving a talk about, bootable containers, but here we are. I enjoy spending time with my family and friends, and I'm addicted to video games. One in particular, which is called Deadlock. If you've not played it, I will give you an invite. I promise. It's great.
You say that now, but then everyone asks, and you won't have enough. So I'm Antheas. I'm a postgraduate student in Denmark in computer science, where we actually have rights. Did you know that? Unlike the US. And I'm also the guy...
Don't panic, everybody.
Yeah. And I'm also the guy that does a lot of the integration that we do with Windows handhelds. And we have one right here. We have... this one is made by SUSE, and it's called the ROG Ally. And you can have a look the next few days. And of course, we make it work with all of the RGB modes, because that's what matters most, right?
RGB and frames, from what I hear about gaming.
But if you put the lights to be red, that's 10 extra frames.
That's true. It does make it faster.
Yeah.
True.
Today we will talk about Bazite, which is a gaming distribution that is, I guess we are anyone, taking everyone by storm. So, what is Bazite?
Sure. Well, one quick question. Who has heard of Bazite, at least, in this room? All right. Who uses Bazite? Sorry, I should have said keep your hands up. Who has contributed to Bazite? More than you'd expect. But that's good, because that's why we're here. We want more people to be involved, as well as us be involved in the upstream, and that's why we're here. But a little bit about what it is. So Bazite is, for all intents and purposes, a ready-to-use operating system to allow you to focus on what is important, which is playing video games. It supports all different devices, and it is bleeding edge while also being bulletproof with the technology that it is built on. And what is really important about that is essentially that it stays stable and makes it an easy entry point for anyone who wants to start using Linux, either on their desktop, tablet, handheld, anywhere they want to use it.
Yeah, essentially, we ship the latest and greatest kernel. We also get a lot of upstream stuff that are not there yet. They haven't gotten into stable yet, and we test them ourselves, and we make sure they work. Then we package them all together, and we beam them right into your computer. So, yes, you can turn almost any device into a console. And the way we do that is that we combine some bleeding edge technologies, and we were the first to kind of integrate them in this way. So we got a lot of market share because of that. And one of them is bootc. So essentially the idea behind that is we take all of this bleeding edge technology, we package it all together, and then we say, if it works on my computer, I will just ship my computer. So we turn it into a container, and then we put it into a registry, and our users fetch that.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the biggest benefits about that is that it allows us to have upgrade reliability and the ability to be able to customize it in a very simple way. And I think it's a normal container, just add a little bit of water, which is the kernel. There you go.
But this also creates some limitations, right? Because a container, and especially when we deploy it, users cannot make changes to it easily. So for that, we rely on Flatpak and FlatHub to provide our users with safe applications from their original vendors so that they can enjoy the software they like while getting the base stuff right,
Exactly. Yeah, the focus of utilizing FlatHub in the way that we do is that it allows us to be able to provide economic stability to folks that are focusing on the open source. One of FlatHub's things that they want to do is they basically want to potentially allow for payment on their platform, which would be hugely beneficial to the open source ecosystem. It allows more control for developers to be able to package things and really ship things the way that they would like to. And it allows us in the Fedora ecosystem to really focus on the system level stuff and making sure that everything integrates well together. I think it's a beautiful way of being able to get the benefits from both sides.
Yeah, so if you ask me, it's beautiful that I never have to worry about the applications that my users are using. I can just
Yep.
focus on the operating system.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And we also do a lot of bleeding edge integration. So we have our own user space program to do that. And I personally developed the kernel in tandem with that. And you can see it here. And this allows you to control everything that your Windows handheld has. Because we have to remember, these things were made to run Windows, right? So when you want to control the RGB, well, the Steam Deck does not have RGB, right? So,
correct.
Yeah. Right now, if you bought a Legion Go OS, with SteamOS, you cannot control the RGB. Okay?
Yep.
That's not that great. And we also had the... Yes, and we are also pragmatic, right? So I focus on, and you focus on,
yes,
creating an operating system that is bleeding edge and works well, but we are also pragmatic, right? Our users use what they use.
Right, exactly. I mean, to be honest, being in the gaming space, there are certain things you just cannot ignore. If you want to have success and ship something that people want to use, you need to be pragmatic in certain ways. One of those ways is we ship Steam, and also GameScope is the package, which is actually an open source package that we contribute to upstream, which allows the Steam Deck to have the UI that it does. And so it's one of those things that is very, very important. From a community building aspect, because we are a gaming focused project, we decided to go on Discord because it is the largest, it started, the way that Discord started, and I remember this back in, I think it was like 2015, my goodness, it's been a while, is the whole point was that there were really no good alternatives in the space at that time. There was TeamSpeak and Ventrilo, and it was really difficult to be able to actually just get going, or Skype, but then Microsoft killed Skype, so what do? And then the other focus that we have from a pragmatic point of view is that we need NVIDIA to work. NVIDIA, again, is the other 900-pound gorilla in the room. NVIDIA is a lot of what laptops, other things ship with, so we absolutely need to make sure that we can support NVIDIA out of the box as much as possible. Simplify that on-ramp, because at the end of the day, we just want people to focus on playing games.
Well, to be honest, we try to make NVIDIA work.
That is true. We do our best, of course.
And it works fairly well, and that's the best way you can describe it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the other question, of course, we are also not doing this just ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sitting on shoulders of giants is really the best way that I can put it, and I absolutely love this. Came from the community of basically our mascot sitting on top of a giant robot, because that's really what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here at the Fedora conference talking about our project, and we really take a lot, and repackage it, and it's really, really important that we give back. And so a lot of the ways that we do that is by working with other projects alongside Fedora, whether it's, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, Red Hat, Universal Blue is our umbrella project for all of these different things. And really, it's something that you literally just cannot do alone. We even work upstream with some of the folks that work on SteamOS. It's, like I said, it's one of those things that if you try to do this stuff alone, you're gonna fail.
Yeah, we just take Fedora, slap gaming on it, and get all the credit.
Yep.
But you might ask, why gamers, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I asked who uses Bazite, but who plays video games in this room? Raise your hand. That's a lot of people, right? This is why we're targeting gamers, is because there's a lot of them. And it's growing. It keeps going. Yeah. The fact that, I was looking at the statistics over time of, I took some time and I was like, okay, well, how do I prove this point? Even more so than I already have. But it's you can see that year over year since 2015, which is what I was talking about, there was 2 billion. It's almost doubled. That's crazy, the amount of growth that people are self-reporting it. And as far as age demographics is concerned, I think that was something else that I was really interested in was what is the breakdown? Because I grew up playing video games. I am a millennial. I'm younger, so like, you know, I had consoles in my, you know, in my house and everything like that. And really to see the proportion of how, you know, the breakdown of like people 65 plus, I mean, I've seen, you know, grandmas and grandpas having Twitch streams that are literally playing video games. Like, it is an acceptable hobby. It used to be more niche, and now I think it's really become a more wide stream adopted type of thing.
Yeah, it's not just 12-year-olds anymore, right?
No, you cannot make that argument. It's just not a thing you can do.
And actually, most of the users that of Buzzite that interact with us are adults, right?
Yep.
A lot of them are fathers, actually, and they buy this handheld, and they want to play some games while having their baby in their lap, you know?
Yep, exactly.
While it's sleeping, they just reach over to their...
I've got two 5-year-olds at home,
Yeah.
so I am in that demographic.
Yeah. I mean, they're not sleeping in your lap anymore, but...
They're running now.
Yes, yeah. While they're running around, you game on your Steam Deck. Yeah. And you can see that it's actually growing. The Linux market share of gaming is growing, and it's growing rapidly, right?
I mean, there's two key pivotal points here, which this was an article that was shared from Gaming on Linux, which is, if you haven't read any of Liam's articles, they're absolutely amazing. And I saw this and I was like, wow, so like this is when the Steam Deck was released in 2022, and you can see a huge bump here of users of Linux. And then, you know, I don't know what this part is, but like the fact of the matter is that this graph is trending upward, which is a good thing. And then the OLED released, and there's a lot of excitement around that. And then I'm trying to remember, Antheus, around timing-wise, like when did the Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go kind of get into the mix?
So the Ally was the first one that was released, and it was actually released 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago. But it's actually 2 months before, so it was released in May. Yeah? What happened?
Oh, it seems like someone has a question.
Yeah.
Or a comment.
It's not a question, but I wanted to actually say why there is the gaps that are going down.
Sure.
Because they, at that time, it was always that the simplified Chinese language was going up on Steam.
Oh,
and they are usually
okay.
Windows users. So this is why it is going down.
Awesome.
I thought that this was the
Yeah,
one
this is
because
the
of
same.
that, right?
Yeah.
So they correct for that every year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the context. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
But the Ally had a rough start in Linux, I think. For the first half year, it did not work really well. And actually, when we came together and really started working on Buzzite, and that was around in March 2024, so Buzzite itself started around here, right, in 2023 during the summer. So, but we really started working on these Windows handhelds around the end of 2023, right, with the launch of the Legion Go. And by last April, actually, we had pretty good support for them. And after that, it's been, let's add more and more and more.
It's been all
devices.
gravy from here. It's
Yeah.
any handheld that a community member comes to us with, you know, like you've been working on the MSI ones and trying to get those. But we'll talk a little bit more about day one handheld and support and that sort of thing in the future here.
Yeah.
So.
But also, there's a very big reason why gamers are important, and for you guys as well, right? Because they are the pickiest of users, right?
Yes, they absolutely are. Like I, for all intents and purposes, think that Linux users are finicky, but interacting with the gaming community, I would argue that they rival that or maybe exceed the pickiness of Linux users. And so I think it's very, very important for us to make them happy, because if they are happy, then they're going to provide tech support to their mom, and their mom is going to be like, well, what should I use? And it's like, well, Linux, why not? It works great. It's very, very easy to use.
But also, if we make these enthusiasts happy, that they want to use the latest and greatest, and we give it to them, and they like
Absolutely.
well, your mom, you know, if you have an office, the secretary, the accountant, you know, I don't think they will have a problem with that. You know?
Absolutely.
If the enthusiast is happy, so first we have to win over the enthusiasts, and I think we are doing that.
Absolutely.
And after we do that, that's where you come in, and you can have the other one. So we can also talk about a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna talk about the impacts of Bazite. Why are we here? Why are we on this stage talking to all of you about this? And really, I was trying to come up with a catchy tagline, and we're trying to be the gaming default that's built on Fedora. Just full stop. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So we actually work with to make sure a lot of different devices work on Bazite, right? Right now we have some support for 7 manufacturers, and I think for at least 70 SKUs from all of those manufacturers when it comes to handhelds, right? And we also support desktops, and while our bread and butter is AMD, we also do NVIDIA and Intel, which are quite hard to work with, and sometimes we have to do some dirty fixes to make sure that they work and our users are happy, right?
But this is why we need all of you, because we're all trying to solve the same problem with NVIDIA and Intel and other vendors. Like, that's really why we all need to come together and work on this.
And we are also having explosive growth, as you can see here. It just keeps growing. I'm always amazed, right?
I can't imagine. So I joined the project I'm trying to remember exactly when I did. It was a few years ago. It was before we actually had even Steam Deck OLED support at that time, because the OLED was a very new device. So that's probably when I joined. And the fact that we have 17,000, which we use Fedora Count Me, thank you, by the way. We are able to track our daily active users, and we have, almost 20,000. I mean, 17,000 is a lot of users. And then 14 million pulls, which are basically pulls on our container registry to show, how often people are updating and interacting with the OS in any way. And it's really surprising to me. And then also just the growth on GitHub in general has been extraordinary.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like I thought Bazite was very big last summer, and this is not even on this chart, I thought it was very big in December, and since December we have almost triple-X our size, and those are the users that actually turned on the device and they connected to internet, right? Those are the only ones that are counted here, so actually we have a lot more, but this gives us a reference point. Yeah.
These are our statistics from last month, roughly, April to May. And as you can see, we utilize Cloudflare as a way in which that we are able to distribute our images. And we had 370,000 unique visitors to the website just by itself. And then the total data served just last month was 594 terabytes.
And that's just for the ISOs, right?
That's
not
just,
for the images.
That is just for the ISOs. And our ISOs are big, and please help us make them smaller. But that's my point. And then the caching, thank you, Cloudflare. It's made this a lot easier to be able to handle. So, it's absolutely amazing the amount of growth that we've received.
And the egress in Cloudflare is completely free. So,
maybe not for long. We'll see what happens.
I call this the Brock Boy stack. Yeah. We are doing the ISOs in Cloudflare, and then we are doing the images in the GitHub image registry, and they don't have any limits yet as well. So hopefully they don't start thinking about that.
This was actually a picture that Kyle, who I wish was able to join us, he was the original creator of Bazite, and absolutely amazing human being. I love him to death. But he actually was able to attend a framework conference. And we have been actively working with Framework in order to be able to get Bazite and any Universal Blue umbrella project working with them just out of the box. So when you install Bazite, it just works. And this was actually at the same event that the Framework desktop was being announced at. And basically what we found there that was really cool is the fact that they were so excited that they slapped our logo up there, and they're declaring that it is the year of the Linux gaming desktop. I know it's a joke. We've been hearing the year of the Linux desktop, but I really think that with the growth that we have seen though, and the excitement around the project, I really do think it's true. I've even had friends and colleagues of mine who are like, what am I going to do when Windows 10 goes away, because I don't want to go to 11. And I didn't have a solution for them before, and now I feel like I do, which is great.
Yeah, and also on that event we also had a booth, and Kyle set up
a little. Absolutely. So this was our booth. It's very, very purple, and we've got the Fedora logo on there as well as Bazite, because we can't take all the credit for all the things that everyone in this room does. And I really think it's just amazing to see them put us on display. And I think Framework is one of the most innovative and awesome companies in the space right now as far as creating hardware. Like I am so happy that we are able to work with them directly.
I also asked Kyle, did they just put a sticker on a tile? But he told me no. This is actually a custom Bazite tile, and that's a custom Fedora tile. Yeah, so done by them. We are also getting a lot of mainstream attention, right?
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. What's been very surprising to me is the fact that the mainstream attention that we have gotten has been from like general tech publications and articles. And it was funny because when we did this presentation at Scale, we talked about how basically we hadn't gotten on DistroWatch yet. And actually like a week or two maybe before Scale, they finally added Bazite onto DistroWatch as being one of the places that, that should know about it, I guess. And all of these articles have predated that, which I think is really interesting. So there is a very strong appetite for the desire to do gaming and to do it in an open source and maintainable way.
By the way, in DistroWatch, we are not getting that many clicks, so we need you to go there and to so we can get on the top page. So people that don't know anything about Linux click on it, and we stay on the top forever. Join the ranks of MXC Linux,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
One of the other really amazing things too, next slide, is the idea that we've been getting so much attention, like without even us trying to do it. Which I think is so interesting is the YouTuber community around gaming and even these tech channels have been posting about us and talking about what we do and why it's good for the space and everything like that. Like everyone continuously talks about how they want to have SteamOS for the desktop, and then we have these videos come out and talk about this, and it's like, well, yes, this solution already exists and it's built on Fedora. That's the coolest part about that. And one of my favorite videos is installing Linux on Apple's stupid trash can, which I think is so great.
My favorite one was the controller one.
Oh, wait, someone installed on a controller? I didn't see that one.
There was a VR handheld that only worked with glasses and it didn't have a screen.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember being in Athens and trying to like communicate with the video creator to make it happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we managed to get it, and it was a beautiful video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And again, like it's also been community attention in other places too. So like, on Mastodon, on the Twitters, on the whatever, X, I guess, I don't know. But like the fact that we've also been seeing, this sort of stuff being talked about in the community as well on these different platforms really makes me feel like we must be doing something right.
Yeah, and these are some pictures from our users.
Absolutely rabid community that we have built, and one of my favorite ones is the one in the top left here, which is basically, so the story behind this one is there's been a very active contributor in our community, and he wanted to build a custom gaming, desk and PC and everything like that and set up for his daughter. And he said in his post, he was like, "Thank you so much, Bazite, for allowing me to be able to do this in a open way and not forcing my daughter to have to suffer through installing Windows and using Windows on her PC." And I'm not gonna lie, that almost made me cry because like these types of moments are why we do what we do. We want people to understand the value of the things that we do and why we do them. And that was just so amazing. But we have other, awesome people in the community as well with their custom builds. Like this one's in a wooden case. We've got someone who's got a screen with their deck right there plugged in, and then we've got Hikari who has freaking so many controllers. I don't know. Like he loves them and awesome. Like I love that picture as well. And then someone with like 4 or 5 laptops and 2 handhelds with Bazite on them. It's just incredible. And I want to talk to you about how this has impacted me directly, because I think what is so cool about this is I never knew how to contribute to open source. I had been a Linux user since Ubuntu 12.04 was the first distro that I actually installed and used. And like, that was during the times when a lot of things were changing, which was fun to try to navigate and figure out. And what is so fascinating to me is the fact that it's like, I've been a user for a really long time, and I was trying to figure out, well, how do I give back? And so like, I was like, well, Red Hat seems like a good company, you know, that I could go and join and try to figure this out from, you know, but the interesting thing is that's not even what happened to cause me to contribute. What caused me to contribute is I found this, you know, video that George had posted about this new model of how to do things on the Linux desktop, and I was really fascinated about it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me give this a try. I've never tried Fedora Silverblue or Kino White or any of the spins, and I was like, I want to see how things are and how they're different. And I ended up finding the Universal Blue Discord community because I play video games and, you know, have done it since I was a small child. And one of the interesting things is I saw that that Kyle and George were in a Discord chat in the open, mind you, like not in a private, you know, cabal whatever room. And I was like, huh, I recognize who George is. Is this the same George? And I was like, huh. I'm gonna go join that chat and see what's going on. And I started talking, and they're like, well, right now we're playing Halo. Like, you know, and I'm like, well, can I at least ask a few questions about the project? Because I know you guys are trying to unwind. And what ended up happening was I asked enough questions, and they're like, well, you know, what are you interested? What do you want to try to help with? You know, and whatever. And I'm like, the laundry list of issues I gave at the time was our installer wasn't good enough. Like, we need to make this easier to get. And so this went for me for a year-plus long journey of trying to figure out how to wrangle Anaconda and get it to do what I needed it to do in order to be able to create, you know, the first Bazite ISOs outside of what we were doing before, which was rebasing using Silverblue and using RPM OS tree rebase. And everything is kind of taken off from there. I am very active in the community. I love what I do. I'm talking at this conference. Like, I was, again, like, in my room, like, earlier today, and I was like, holy crap, all this has happened in the last few years. And I think that's the thing, the importance of community is really trying to make open, inclusive spaces, which, you know, now that I've started to work with all of you, you know, more in the upstream, I've really, like, I feel welcomed, I feel embraced, and it's a great place to be. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and honestly give yourself a round of applause for what you've done, because you've really changed my life. So, but yeah.
And I can also talk a bit about me, since we have a lot of time left.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So
how did you get started with this thing? How did you start wrangling devices?
So for me, actually around when Legion Go released, I was actually looking for a computer for personal use, looking at the laptops, looking at everything. And I saw Lenovo was doing this handheld, and for the specs, the price was very low. So I thought to myself, you know, this is going to become more and more popular as time goes on. So I bought it, and then I figured out that nothing worked. Yeah. I first installed Ubuntu on it, and Ubuntu at the time had the 6.1 or 6.5, and that kernel with that chipset had some very funny artifacts on the screen, for example, right? So I started wrangling it together and fixing stuff, and around December of that year, Kyle contacted me and was like, you know, this stuff, I want to include it on Bazite. So I started actively contributing there, and as part of this journey, I've also started to contribute to open source more and more, right? Because before that, I wasn't contributing much. So it has been a great journey for me as well.
Oh yeah, I would be absolutely interested in any of your guys' journeys of how you got here, what you do. I love hearing people's stories, so feel free to, you know, chat me up or whatever the case may be. You know, that's something that I just appreciate so much about this community and what we do.
Yeah, and let's work together. So we also
Absolutely.
have some statistics about our community. though.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, we're downstream of Fedora, so we're not technically part of the project proper. And what I wanted to show is that we have a rabid user base, but we also have a rabid contributor base. And what we've been doing is we've been compiling some statistics to talk about actually how are these things happening. And what's really amazing to me is that we've been able to put together these discussions and talks about how do we actually figure this out? And it's amazing to see the numbers of members that have grown over time. I mean, this was the year of 2024, so I'm sure this is tiny. I probably should have asked for a more recent graph, but this is the one that I got from last year. And what's amazing to me is that there's so many conversations that are happening on Discord. We also have a very active discourse, user base as well. And then GitHub, funnily enough, is the smallest. And I think it's one of those things of, in some ways you have to meet people where they are. And I feel like we've done a really great job of being able to try to wrangle all of these things together and be pragmatic in the ways that we can and try to be open in the ways that, that we can as well.
Yeah, I think what really makes Buzzite different is this downstream, actually. The fact that we go to where the users are. And not only that, but because we are very, very downstream, and we don't have a lot of other projects depending on us, we can ship features fast. So if there's a device that has an issue and a random user can show up on Discord or on Reddit or wherever, they can say, okay, I have this issue, and if this issue is easy to fix, I can push a commit. If it's with the controllers, for example, I can push it to our user space software and tell them, press this button to update, right? And it will pull it straight from GitHub. So we have an iteration time for that for 10 to 20 seconds. And when it comes to the kernel, since we have a custom kernel, I can do a fix, a build, and around 3 to 4 hours later, we have a custom utility that works with bootc, and I can tell to the user, go to there, go to testing, you just swipe here, you press these 3 buttons, and you're testing the fix. And then they can give me the thumbs up, and because of that, we iterate very fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that has been great. And also for the users, right? Because imagine you are somebody that is not involved with open source, and you find this issue in a software. And for example, if it's Fedora, where do you go? What do you do? If it's Buzzite, you just pop up on the Buzzite subreddit, or you go to our Discord, and you see this issue is fixed very fast. It's very motivating for you, and it's very motivating to come back. And we this way we reel them in, because we often don't talk about it, but contributing to open source takes a lot of know-how and a lot of institutional knowledge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even for us, right?
Yeah, and we have a question in the audience.
Can I have a question? I'm interested in testing. So how do you test Buzzite? Obviously you are generating container images, so you can run some tests on top of it. But how do you test the real hardware? You are, you support a lot of handhelds, obviously, and so on. So can you expand a little bit on this story?
So what's going on with that is that when we need to do a new build to fix something, maybe, what was the last one? Matter broke.
Yep.
Why not? Matter broke and the Flatpak stopped working, was that right? We had to do a...
Yes, it was, Mutter had a bad patch that we actually had to cherry pick and move back a version in order to be able to fix it, because Flatpaks literally just would not open, which is a big issue for us. So what we ended up doing is we figured out what the upstream issue was. We did some testing. What's nice about the container builds aspect is that things get tested as they are built.
So what we did there was we made an updated version of Matter. Then we pressed a button on GitHub, the container built. Then our users could either type a command that they can find in our change logs, or they could go to our user space software here and just press this button, and it will automatically, it won't work now because we don't have Wi-Fi,
connected to the
but
internet.
it will automatically find the latest versions for them to just go through, press the button, press apply, and then they even get a progress bar now.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, we added the first progress bar in Red Hat tools, you know?
Yep, yep.
You guys must be allergic to progress bar. Podman does not have a progress bar, RPM OS3 does not have a progress bar, you know.
We have another question in the audience.
Yes.
So, in the history of asking contentious questions, but trying not to, in the previous session, Steph asked a question of Fesco about how Universal Blue had had impact in the project, and part of the answer was they kind of haven't shown up. So, my question to you is not why haven't you shown up, but what can the Fedora community do to ensure that there's a welcoming space for the kind of work that's going on in Universal Blue that has applicability to its upstream? Like you ship some software and stuff that we're not going to let ship, and that's fine. But how do we make sure that the good stuff is rolling upward in a look up, not down perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. I can answer this one. So there's definitely a desire for us to do that. We actually are going to be moving into slides to suggest how that can happen. I mean, for me personally, it's one of those things that, like, if we push upstream and be upstream first, it benefits everyone. All of the people that we work with outside of our project, anyone who is trying to do gaming on Linux benefits from us getting those things upstreamed. And I think, you know, we can move into the slides to basically discuss how that is going to happen.
Yeah. But not only that, but to be more specific there, we are also new to open source, right? And over the past year, we've been tightening up our act. For example, in kernel 6.16, for 1X player, the kernel driver we developed, a major overhaul for that driver got pushed upstream. And yes, we are trying to become more and more upstream. And we need your help for that. And in addition to that, our users are even more novice than us. So we are also trying to upskill them.
There's a lot of new people in the community. Like some people literally have come into our community and said, this is the first thing, like I'm a web developer, or I'm a this developer, embedded developer, whatever the case may be. And they're like, this is the first open source project like I've ever worked with. And they're like, what do we do? And it's like, you know, I think that's why we're here to have this discussion, is to try and figure out how can we work better together. And I think, you know, we can probably, well, we've got one more slide to talk about statistics, which is talking about the amount of community members that we have. You know, the conversations that are going on and the growth of the project has been, you know, absolutely crazy. You know, we have even statistics talking about like RenovateBot, man, they're killing it. 687 contributions, like come on, like we're slacking here. Tulip, you need to get to work and do some stuff. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, I mean, yeah, this is what we're trying to say, is that, you know, what we're doing is working. Now, how can we benefit everybody else, you know? And so what I want to say here is that, you know, I took some time. Oh, did we want to? Okay, we got a couple of questions. Yeah, let's go ahead and do them. So let's start here, and then we'll go over here. Oh, what's his hand up first?
Yeah, let's go with him first. I have the questions from the chat, so I will go last.
Oh, so sure. We left a lot of time for questions. We are eating it to answer questions, but we can also slide through the slides and then do a proper Q&A. But let's do that one first, and then let's go.
Well, he's got the microphone. Let's start there.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, there is one question that is most upvoted. Why did you choose Fedora Linux as your base? There was another part, but this was already answered. And what can Fedora project do for you to support you more?
Sure, I can answer this one. So the reason why we picked it is because of OS3 and Bootsy. For all intents and purposes, Fedora was the only one that was doing something anywhere like what we needed, and it was the most mature option at the time that we chose it. And I also think that Fedora does an absolutely excellent job of balancing, you know, the bleeding edge new features like we were talking about with also a stable platform to be able to work on. And from my perspective, that's why we chose it.
Yeah, for me, okay, so I have a bit of a different perspective. In the beginning, it was a bit arbitrary, but as I got more and more involved, for me, what Fedora represents is the fact that it has enterprise bones, right?
Also that, yep.
It has secure boot. It has a lot of architectures support, which will become important in the near future. And finally, it does all of that while having a very large repository. So it competes very well against Arts while having those enterprise features.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And I think this is not just important for us, right? But it's important for a lot of other users. I think Fedora has been slept on a bit, you know? Everyone uses Ubuntu.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
I
We
would
should
agree.
do something about that. But
Yeah. Do we have any more questions from the chat, or maybe we want to?
Yeah, there are 3 more.
3 more.
We can,
okay,
we can do
let's-
them
let's-
in the end. We can do
let's
them in
save
the
those
end
for the
because we will
Q&A
stay
because we
forever.
will
Yes,
likely have
yes.
time.
But I want to take your question because you've been waiting a long time. Yeah.
So I understand why you're building a separate kernel, because there's a lot of drivers that are not there, and I appreciate that those are actually being pushed upstream. But my question is not the patches that you carry, because we try to avoid as many patches as possible by policy. But are you carrying many config changes for your kernel that are...
Actually, not that many. So if you go to our kernel repository, we just modify the kernel local file and you can have a look. And most of the kernel config changes are for packages that we add. So
okay.
I think there's one. There's an HR timer, one that we discussed as well yesterday.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's just maybe the config changes would be worth pushing
Yeah.
up to me and seeing if we can take them upstream.
I
and
think
making
it
them.
would help 2 or 3 devices, especially when it comes to motion controls, because the user can do our K-mode package, and then they can use the stock kernel, right?
Sure.
So we can talk about that later. But yes, we try to align with Fedora as much as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I was at Summit a few weeks ago, and I had a chance to talk with somebody, and one of the things that they brought up, because I was like, okay, how am I gonna do this presentation? Like, I was still noodling on exactly what I wanted to talk about and that's how the best presentations are born, it seems, is I've had also conversations with other people who are like, I'm just finishing up my slides, and I'm like, oh, interesting, so am I. But I think one thing that I really took away that I wanted to talk about is how Bazite aligns with Fedora and the values that the community has. And the values that I were given was first, features, friends, and freedom. And like the funny part was is when I was reading through that, I was like, oh wow, yeah. We align literally with all of those things. We just need to figure out, you know, how we can get the upstream stuff done and how we can work more closely together. And those are really the big takeaways that I had when I was reading those. And if you haven't had a chance to, you know, I'm sure most of you, if you're longtime contributors, know these, but it was really eye-opening for me to think about.
Yeah, but also there is a bit of a benefit for the budget being separate, right? And we talk about that here, right? We want a lot more cutting edge when it comes to gaming stuff. And we want something that's a bit simpler and that goes halfway with the users. So if they want to use their proprietary software, we want to let them. But at the same time, as we discussed here, a lot of the stuff we do could go upstream and it could benefit Fedora a lot. So I think for that stuff, we should work more together to push it.
Absolutely. Yeah, things like NVK, FEX, you know, those are the types of things that we're really excited about. Like even the stuff that's being happening in Nobara and the UMU launcher project and all of these different ways in which that we can take Steam out of the equation for certain types of gaming. Like ultimately, like I would love to have everything be open source from soup to nuts. Like that would be super awesome. But like the reality is that we have to focus on the here and now. We have to meet people where we are, and we need to get more people involved because ultimately that will help us move towards the goals.
But also a lot of our insight here is not code, right? It's user testing. We have a lot of user testing in a lot of major Fedora components, such as bootc, such as Anaconda, right? And we know a lot of the pain points, and it's actually a shame that we cannot share them with you, right? So, for example, with Anaconda, there are like 4 to 5 specific errors, and where our users stumble on them, and it would be very nice to work together to fix them, because they're also in Fedora as well, right? But
Absolutely.
when we work downstream, it's very hard to do this leap and to find the person responsible to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we should work together.
We need to work together. Something that was interesting that Neil told me is the fact that there was a Fedora, Neil Gampa. You all know Neil. Is to revive the gaming sig. And really, I thought about it and I'm like, okay, well, what could we do with the gaming sig? And my thought is basically we could have that be essentially a common platform that a lot of us could build off of and be able to utilize, and it could benefit the wider gaming ecosystem by doing that. I think if we try to think of it more as a platform and less as someone's going to use the Fedora gaming spin out of the box, it could work. I'm just coming up with ideas or thoughts, but that one was one that stuck out to me. The idea that we have, gamers make excellent contributors. We want to give you guys more people to be able to work on these things. And then the final thing that Kyle and I talked about before we got here was, how can we get Fedora more visible in the community? And one of the ways that I thought about it was, like having an official Steam Fedora group or something like that, or even like something like hosting community game nights where it's, Fedora users versus Arch users or something like that. Like silly stuff like that could be really fun.
But we're at T-10, so I think we should speed through the rest of the slides.
Absolutely, let's speed through it. Exactly.
Yeah. So we have. Well, we talked about these things already. So we should talk a bit about our contributors, and I will actually give you this so that I pull a list that I have because I don't want to forget anyone, right? Because we love you, all of you. And a lot of them are actually, most of them are actually new to open source, and Buzzite is the first project they are contributing to. Right. So, of course, we have Kyle, who couldn't be here today, so we have to shout him out, who created Buzzite and actually does a lot of the heavy lifting still. And then we have Hikari, who helps our community a lot, Zeglius, Check Your Facts, Valerie, Wolfie Reload, Cilantro Limewire, Ansen, Honjo. And then in our community, we have 4 special members, Atapia, Delia, Termdisk, and Chrono, that are very active. And we cannot forget about Nickname, who is stepping a bit away from our docs, but is the reason that Buzzite has the incredible documentation that it has.
He's going into the sunset. We need to give him a little bit of a break because, man, he did an absolute excellent job.
Yes. And George, of course.
I can quickly go through this. So my feeling is that Microsoft has left room for us to be able to pounce on this new market. We need to be pragmatic. That's, I think, a really important thing, and we need to work closer together. We're going to move to questions now because it seems like there's a lot. So I want to make sure we leave ample time.
Take the ones in the room first, I guess, or the ones inside. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so another one from chat. Why would I install Buzzite to play games when I can play games on my existing Fedora workstation already?
If your Fedora workstation works really well for you, you can, of course, keep using it. And we also try to make the gaming components that we try to improve available to use on Fedora. So if it works for you, stay where you are. But if you are a bit more of a novice user, or actually you want some of the cutting edge features such as HDR, VRR, and we also had, last year, for example, we had SketchX. Before it merged in the kernel, I think we had it for around half a year before it hit upstream, right? So if you want features like that and you want them early, Buzzite is definitely a place to look, right? So let's...
another one. Are there plans to provide Buzzite for ARM64 devices?
Actually, we have a testing build you can install right now on ARM. One of our members that I shouted out made it, right?
Yeah, we've definitely been interested in working on ARM devices. Anybody who can help us with this would be absolutely immensely helpful. I mean, we would love to be able to ship Buzzite even for with the Asahi stuff, being able to get it to run on Macs because like one of the biggest ARM platforms available, like we have to be there.
But also it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. We are also waiting on
Yes.
devices, right? And devices that are powerful enough where it makes sense to install a fully fledged distribution.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And that's happening right now with Qualcomm, for example. So.
Okay, and
Yeah.
the last one I have here. Will there be a move away from carrying oddities from SteamOS, eventually, for example, their broken auto mount behavior?
So, which one?
Broken auto mount.
Auto mount. We actually, so we do have two auto mount solutions right now. We have the Steam one, and one of our members developed another one that works with all of your internal disks if they are BetRFS. And if this solution becomes more and more mature, we might drop the Steam one, although the Valve one. But although I thought it worked, so yeah, yeah. Well, we can also work on upstreaming that. If,
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So that's it.
That was all from me.
Yeah. So
Cool.
anyone else?
Do we have any other questions? So we've got about 5 minutes left,
Yes.
so I want to be cognizant of other presenters.
So you mentioned you guys have worked with some of the SteamOS developers upstream. Do you get any sense of like what Valve thinks of Bazite, or any indication of them wanting to maybe use it in the future?
It is interesting, right? Because like they are aware of us, as far as I can tell. Like they know that we exist. They know that we contribute upstream to GameScope, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I think the thing is like.
Like, if we have a problem contributing to upstream ourselves, Valve has two problems. So
right.
They also need to get better. We are trying to get there, right? So
right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I think like Valve just, from what I can tell, like cares, but also doesn't in certain ways.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird relationship that I almost wish that was a little bit more clear.
Like a lot of their packages, we have to fish from. So they publish the source RPMs to stay compliant. So we have to fish the source code from those, right? They are not available online. So stuff like that. At least for us, we make everything available. And actually, last year, we made the Bazite organization where we put a lot of the repositories we had in personal repos and we centralized everything. So we are trying to get better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and there's definitely help there too of like packages that we have, or even kernel, like we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
How can we get these things upstreamed to be beneficial?
Yeah, but also that's difficult, right? So we are trying to get better.
So for example, if Steam wanted to enable this in the future, one way that they could do that is actually get their RPMs into Fedora. It would make it a lot easier for you guys.
I think a first step would be to publish the repositories. So let's start with the basic stuff. Yes, yes, yes. So, yeah. Yes.
Sorry, making you want to run everywhere. Are there any... Well, I realize that if I'm probably about to ask about stuff that might be a business decision, so you may not be able to actually answer fully, but are there any plans or efforts in place to working with hardware manufacturers to have Bazite be the solution that they ship with, or ship as an alternative offering directly from the manufacturers?
I can answer about that.
Yeah,
so
you can probably
comment on
comment
that. We're thinking about, but before we do that, the major component here is homologation, and we are kind of clueless when it comes to homologation, and Bazite itself is not a company, it doesn't have trademarks, right? It's not a foundation. So I think there needs to be a legal entity there, maybe. I don't know. But it's a very valid question, and it's something that we should look into, because it's a shame that these manufacturers, they want to enable their users to use Linux, and because of we haven't done the background work on it, they cannot, right?
Right. I mean, the biggest thing is, we just need to talk more about it, and really reach a consensus there, because a lot of what we do is, we all, like every open source, project, have our own views on how things should be done, and so
also that,
yeah, and I think that's a big part of it too.
We have a large contributor pool now, so everyone would have to also come together and decide. So, nice. So exactly on time. No more questions.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Hi everyone, just a couple of announcements before we break for lunch. The main one is please take all of your belongings with you now. They are going to break this room into 3 breakout rooms. If there is any laptops or etc., they won't be here after lunch, so please make sure that you
Now you
take
can
that
get
with
with.
you. Also, we are looking for some volunteers to sit at the registration desk from 3 to 5. If you have a spare hour or 2 hours, please talk to the registration desk. They would really need your help. And as everyone is leaving, and I hope you get this message later, but I'll pass it on again, for any of our social events tonight, tomorrow, make sure you bring your Flock to Fedora badge with you. That will be required for entry as well. So take your stuff, bring your badge. Do some registration, volunteering.
You're coming into town tonight.
Because I really miss them. So it's been a while that I haven't seen them, so I
Yeah, so
cannot
they're
wait
coming
to
into
see
town
them.
tonight.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, I think because
let's
from
just
opening I think at 8:30 around. that
yeah. Sorry, I didn't know she'd written you, so. No, that's perfect. I've already told Stella she gets to see you. I won't promise she remembers what she remembers and what she doesn't is hit and miss some days.
Yeah, well, it's because last year we didn't meet. So
Right.
it's 2 years.
Yeah, and so it's been long enough that I think she'll remember, but she, like, if I say Yona, it sometimes doesn't seem to connect. You know, because she's...
I'm sure we will find to catch up, but cannot wait to see her.